Hey everybody, welcome back to another Dark Park Film Reviews. And this is going to be video number 3 for the Full Moon features, which will also include Empire Pictures. And this is all about full moon DVDs that are numbered on the spine. And I'll show you what that is in a moment. But I have a special guest with me that is Dustin Hubbard. How you doing, Dustin?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks, John. I appreciate you asking me to come on.
Oh, I'm glad because I know that you are a full moon fanatic.
I
So and that's what I want are people who either worked on the movies or people that are like fanatics and know a lot about full moon. And you were my first thought on that.
I,
So
I appreciate that.
oh yeah. And what we're going to be looking at are this is the first one here, but we'll talk about it in real talk about it after I show this. This is just an example, but as people can see, there's like a number 1 on there. So that's what we're looking at. We're looking at all of these that are numbered up here. So if they don't have a number, they're not in the stack. So now, why are you a full moon fanatic? What attracted you to Full Moon or Empire or Charles Band? What was it? How did you get into this, and why is this like your thing?
You know, as a kid, like many other people, I guess I was a huge movie nerd, huge movie renter. I would spend my weekends at the video store going and, renting literally everything. I mean, we were kind of crazy like that in my house where, I remember when release day was Wednesday, we would go, and sometimes I would even my mom would let me skip school and we would just go to the video store. We'd be there opening when they would unlock the door and run in. And we would literally rent every single movie that came out. We would rent everything. We watched literally anything and everything. And I was just crazy. I was crazy about movies and I watched a lot of stuff, a lot of variety. And obviously the stuff that spoke to me more was a lot of the B horror type stuff. And I'm a credit reader. I love credits. As weird as it sounds, sometimes credits are actually my favorite part of a movie. Are the credit scroll, and especially if you do picture credits, that's kind of like way right into my heart. So I would always read the names, and the names that I saw a lot always stuck out. So I started seeing Charles Band pop up a lot, and I'm like, that seems like a name to remember. And I remember the day that. Back in the day, you didn't just have video stores. You could rent movies from like the grocery store or the electronics store. In my town, we had a Radio Shack that you could rent movies from. You could rent them from the local Marsh grocery store, So I went in Marsh, and the day that the very first Puppet Master movie was released, I was there when they put it on the shelf, and I'm like, this looks amazing. And I took it, brought it home that night, and watched it on the very first day of release, and was like, this is it. Like, I love it. I loved everything about it. I watched it probably 2 or 3 times just in that rental. And, Full Moon was from the start very much a sort of like, because even that first official Full Moon movie with the first Puppet Master had the behind the scenes making of, which was called No Strings Attached. And they showed you how they made the movie, and they showed you behind the scenes stuff, which was very uncommon for that day and age. I mean, we didn't have DVD or anything, so putting extra stuff on a tape was not normal because a company had to sign off on it. And they paid
VHS tapes.
They paid by how much tape was on that video cassette. So getting them to agree to do that kind of stuff was tricky. And as Full Moon grew, that expanded into the Video Zone, which was basically like a 30-minute video magazine. And Charlie would come on and introduce it and tell you, what was going on, what movies were being done. They would show you trailers. They'd show you how all of it was done. And it was just a very interactive, immersive kind of thing that predated what we know today as special features. And it really made you feel like you were a part of what was happening. And I really dug that vibe. And plus the movies, they're like a lot of it, this will sound weird, but Full Moon movies a lot of times feel like horror movies for kids. They kind of have like a childlike sort of vibe sometimes,
Okay,
you know,
yeah.
but for adults, if that makes sense. You know, there's a lot of fantastical kind of elements, and a lot of that really spoke to me as a kid. Some of them at the time didn't quite as much, because there were some of these science fiction and more like fantasy type ones that didn't really jive with me as a kid. But then as I grew older, and I've watched some of these movies way more than I want to probably admit on camera, but some of them as an adult, I would go back and rewatch, and, you know, something like that I didn't appreciate, say like a Dr. Mordred in the 90s, because I wasn't really a, you know, fan of comic books and that kind of stuff. But like as an adult, I can be like, damn, that's an amazing movie, you know, or Mandroid and Invisible, kind of like more science fiction-y kind of stuff. I was like, Did I watch it as a kid? I'm like, damn, these are really good. Like, it was just, they were always kind of ahead of the curve. They were really well made. Like Full Moon, in my mind, you know, in opinion, Full Moon really stood for quality direct-to-video film. So, and I think to degrees that still stands very firm today. They still try to really craft quality independent film, and there are very few major B movie companies that are A, still alive doing it, and B, that are still doing it well. So I think the only other company I could say that really rivals what they do is the Asylum.
Mm-hmm.
So people like to say Trauma, but Trauma, it has never really been much of a production company. You know what I mean? So they've always been more of an acquisition and distribution kind of label. So, and Full Moon's always been a production company. So they really, in my opinion, kind of stand above everything else. So I've loved everything they do from day one.
Yeah, I'm 56. Mm-hmm. So my mom used to take me to the drive-in. Mm-hmm. And that's where I saw Laser Blast, because I was a huge Star Wars fan.
Yeah.
And my mom's like, hey, this looks like Star Wars. You know, let's go. Yeah. And then, of course, in the movie, the main character with the gun on his arm shoots, you know, the billboard. He shoots the Star Wars on it.
Yeah.
And I thought that stop animation, which I knew from Sinbad or Jason and the Argonauts. Like, I didn't know at the time, because I was like 10, you know, who Ray Harryhausen was, or Dave Allen or anything. It was amazing to me.
Oh yeah.
And then I saw what is it? The Daytime Ended at the drive-in.
Oh,
and then there was always stuff because of Charles Band's dad, Albert Band, directing movies.
Yeah.
So even without knowing they were connected or related or whatever, I saw his stuff on TV.
Oh yeah.
And it was just, it's amazing of how you discover these things and they continue to stay with you and grow. You know, as you know, I had the opportunity to work on Evil Bong 777. That was for like 3 days. It's an opportunity that I will probably never get again, because they don't shoot out here. Yeah. And Danny Draven did live out here, but I believe he moved to Florida. So that kind of, you know, went out the window when he moved.
Yeah.
But you know, I do get to work with Tom Devlin a lot, which is really nice.
Yeah.
And a certain filmmaker whose initials are, you know, DF, when I brought up working on, you know, Evil Bong 777, goes, oh, well, it's not a Puppet Master movie, so who cares?
Because some people did work on a Puppet Master movie, but, you know, not all of us can get that opportunity. But, you know, I think I say this with love. There's a lot of Full Moon snobbery among fans and stuff, and I love it all. You know, I will admit I'm not one of those, you know, pardon the phrase, but like, I'm not a Dick Ryder fan. You know, like, I don't sit here, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you every single movie and all 400 numerically numbered films are like masterpieces, because they're not, you know, and that's fine. But like, you know, some things are better than others, but I take it all. I love it all, like good or bad. I love it all. It's under the same roof. Over the years, there's been a lot of different sister labels and, side production companies and stuff, but it's all at heart, it's all Full Moon. I love it all, and I don't think there's anything wrong with Evil Bong. I love me some Evil Bong. So
I love those films, and I got to work with everybody that was in all of them because we were already on part 7 by then. So, a lot of those, like 90% of those people came back for the other ones.
Yeah.
And, living in LA for a long time, I lived in Pasadena, is, I got to see stuff like Oblivion on the Paramount lot.
Yeah.
And being able to drive onto Paramount and see Oblivion, or I snuck onto the Paramount lot to see Lurking Fear.
Oh,
so I actually conned my way through the gate, found out where it was going to be because a friend of mine said, hey, they're having a screening. And then one of the people said, oh, I don't recognize you. Are you friends with so-and-so? And I'm like, yeah. And C. Courtney Joyner was there, and we got to see this film. And then, of course, you have the previews that you could go to for like before a movie comes out.
Yeah.
And got to see stuff like Reanimator, and Stuart Gordon was there.
Yeah.
And it's just, I even at one point with Charles Band, I forgot, we got invited to a Full Moon picnic. And I think it was on the Paramount lot, and he was walking around, and I'm like, Mr. Band, I have a great idea for, Creepazoids 2. And he's like, oh, I would love to hear it, but I don't own the rights to that. Sorry. And then he kind of moved on.
Yeah.
And so I met Tim Thomerson once. I went to a screenwriting seminar, and he was just standing outside, and I was like, oh my God, it's Tim Thomerson.
Yeah.
And went up to him and shook his hand, and I'm like, hey, I hate to bother you, but thank you for your comedy. Thank you for your acting. Thank you for Jack Death. The whole thing. And he's like, oh, well, you're welcome and everything. And then I went inside because I was too nervous to just stand there awkwardly.
Yeah.
So
oh, yeah.
It's Full Moon for me. Oh, and knowing like Michael Aranda, who was in Creepazoids, and I got to work with him on some of my student films when I was at Los Angeles City College. So for me, Full Moon has been with me in one way or another, literally since I was 10, like 10 or 11.
Yeah.
And I don't think it will ever disappear. I think it will always be here.
Yeah. I guess for me, when Puppet Master 1 came out on videotape back in 89, I was like 12. So it's like, it's been the better part of my life. So
yeah, you just make certain things. I mean, now I just keep remembering things like my buddy Cliff Macmillan, who was one of the guys who started Scream Factory, and now he's over at Arrow. We worked together. We've been friends for well over 30 years. And he was the manager, and I was an usher, then an assistant. And we worked at this place called the Tamalpais Theater that played all the Empire movies. So we had Troll, Ghoulies. We played a Dungeon Master, and then we would go down to San Francisco and watch them, where there'd be like 6 movies in a row, and at least 2 of those would be Empire.
Yeah.
And they would be druggies in the audience, and hookers, and homeless people sleeping. And we didn't care. We were just there watching these movies. So and then of course, when he got into Scream Factory, some of their releases were all the Empire stuff.
Yeah. I wish I could say that I had seen a lot of that stuff in the theater. I'll admit to being very jealous for not having gotten to see things like Laser Blast or The Daytime Ended or some of that kind of stuff on the big screen like you. The closest that I've come to seeing anything closely Full Moon related on a big screen was back in 2018, like maybe a week before we made the film Ouija Mummy. Me and Sebastian Godin and Clint Kelly drove to Fort Lauderdale to a film festival, and like literally 5 hours south of where I live, to the opposite coast, and watched Puppet Master Littlest Reich at a film festival down there. And it was funny because Seb loved it, Clint hated it, and I was just like, meh. and
Well, you know, and bringing up Ouija Mummy, so you're just not a full moon fanatic. You're also a film producer. You're a
Yes.
film writer. You're
Yes.
also an actor. So tell us a
Yes.
little bit about that, and then we'll get into these two stacks.
You know, I obviously being a movie kid from birth, you know, my mom took me to go see Poltergeist because she's A+ mom when I was like 2 years old, and it absolutely scared the ever loving shit out of me, and it just set the stage. And I'm from Indiana, and at the time, until not too far back, there was literally no film industry in Indiana. You know, I remember being a kid and then coming to Indiana to shoot, like, it was always basketball movies like Hoosiers or Blue Chips with Nick Nolte. You know, like, they didn't make movies in Indiana. It's just not a cinematic place, unless you want to make a movie about like farmers and cornfields or basketball. So I moved to Florida, and I got to a point where I was working at a certain movie rental retailer, and I worked with the right set of people, and we're like, man, we rent a lot of bad movies to people. We could probably make something just as good, if not better. And everyone was in agreement. I worked with some people who'd taken some screenwriting classes, some people who'd actually had acting experience and locally produced horror films already. And we decided, yeah, fuck it, let's try and make a movie. And I pitched them 3 different ideas, and we agreed on one. And me and my store manager and one of my managerial coworkers, we 3 set out to make our movie. And it was kind of like an in-store affair. Literally everyone that worked in our store was involved in my first film on some capacity. And we shot in November of 2007 for 10 days. We shot my first film, which I wrote, directed, and co-produced, called For Christ's Sake.
Oh, okay.
And it never came out, but and it could one day, you never know. It was myself and Debbie Rashawn played Christian scientists who cloned Jesus. And through a series,
I want to see this now.
Through a series of brainwashing and conditioning, we basically create a being that can't be controlled, and essentially lots of bad things happen. And it had, for its time, I mean, we had Debbie, we had Joel Wynkoop was in a major role. We had Monique Dupree, who was a fairly popular Tromette at the time. Peter Stickles, who would later go on to be in Full Moon movies as Alice.
Yeah, and I've worked with Peter.
3, and he even played Jeffrey Dahmer in Ginger Dead Man 3. He was texting me from the set of Evil Bong 3, like, you won't believe what's going on here. And I'm like, tell me. So he was in it. We had Lloyd Kaufman, and For Christ's Sake was my film school, basically, because I was originally not going to stay in Florida. I was going to move to California and go to film school. I have an uncle that lived out there. I was going to live with him, and there was, through a series of bad weather conditions, he was an antiques dealer, and he owned a big house on the side of a mountain, and there was a huge rainfall, and his house, the mountain it was on, had a hollow canyon on the inside of it, and it flooded, and his house came down the side of the mountain.
Oh,
moving to California was not in the cards. So, but then I met the right people. We decided to try and make a movie. And even though it didn't come out, I learned a lot. I met a lot of people, and it just sort of started a cycle. And one of the people who was in it and helped co-produce it was my, friend Nicola Fiore, who has went on to go and be in a bunch of horror films since, and I've managed ever since. So I just kept doing what I was doing, and I mean, goodness, for like 17, 18 years later, I've produced over 100 low budget films, so, and counting. So, and I love it. I love it. So I wouldn't have it any other way. So
so that's good. So people can see stuff that, along with Full Moon, they can see stuff that you've made too. So
absolutely.
Has Full Moon influenced your filmmaking? Like, at any point, have you
Some. I think that in a lot of my recent writing, it has started to influence me a bit more on some things coming up that I would like to make. So, because Full Moon, one thing I think people like to kind of criticize sometimes is, oh, it's all just little creatures and little monsters and stuff. And I'm like, there's nothing wrong with that. I love that stuff. So I love me some little monsters or little creature, puppet or doll movies. And those are more, you need some actual budget and special effects to do that. So I haven't made as many of those kinds of influence type of movies as I would like to, but hopefully those will be in the future. So, but definitely, I think as someone that I would say that I would like to emulate as a producer, or definitely someone that I respect the most within the industry is someone like Charles Band, because I think that what he's built over the years and continued to consistently do for decades now is produce quality, sellable, entertaining content. And he's still doing it. And, nothing stopped him. And Full Moon over the years has had many hurdles and speed bumps, but they've not. They've not hit that point like Empire did, where everything folded. They are still kicking, and they're still going strong. I think they're just as strong today, as they were back in the day. It's not the Paramount era, because everyone likes to romanticize. Oh, the Paramount era was, the Paramount era was the land of milk and honey with like Full Moon films. We can't deny that, but times change. Budgets change, movies and filmmaking techniques evolve. They're still going strong. And, like I said, next to maybe The Asylum, there's really no other company that's producing as much original, quality made content on a yearly basis. So they're great.
Yeah, they're definitely survivors, and they seem to adapt where other places don't. And
that's a key factor, I think, in staying, active and relevant is you have to evolve with the times, and Full Moon has done that. When they needed to have smaller budgets or shoot on lower formats and stuff, they have. It's and now we're in the digital era. COVID made it very difficult to shoot things. I'm sure it made it very difficult to shoot in larger areas like in LA and stuff like that. So a lot of people and companies just moved out and started doing things elsewhere. That's how, Full Moon Ohio became a thing, which I never thought that I would see the day where Full Moon basically had their main stranglehold in Ohio, of all places, literally next to my home state, or, where I'm from. But, here we are. So.
Yeah, they definitely have evolved. I mean, I remember when they were doing, like media, home entertainment, and I remember those. And then Wizard, I ordered a bunch of those through the mail, not even realizing that those were VHS tapes, that those were Charles Band. And then they had the two video games, Halloween and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where you were Leatherface and you would hit the red button and the chainsaw would go like this. And then in the Halloween one, you were the babysitter trying to get the babies, because Michael was going around with a big knife going like that. And I owned both of those. My mom thought I was crazy.
So it'd be great if you owned them nowadays, because I'm sure they are worth a lot of money, because they were very limited runs, I want to say. I don't think a lot of them were made. And but those were examples of how, as a businessman, Charles Band was always kind of ahead of the curve. I mean, even when VHS was becoming a thing, he bought in early and bought distribution rights for basically what they call for perpetuity for a handful of titles for VHS, which are still VHS titles they sell to this very day on big box Wizard videos. I mean,
those big boxes. Yeah.
He created what we know as media home video. He created that back in the day when he founded Media Home Video. It was called Meta Home Video because Meta was the name of Charles Band's first wife. So he named his distribution company after his wife.
Oh, okay.
So, and then when he sold it and it, went and it changed management, they put the I in it and made it Media. But you know, those are all things that existed because of him. Wizard Video, you know, it's, you know, he was always ahead of the game. So.
And is that a full moon shirt that you're wearing there?
Yes, it is.
I thought I recognized the top of it.
This is my original Full Moon Fan Club T-shirt from the 90s.
Oh, wow.
So
that thing looks brand new. It looks like you just bought it.
Been worn a handful of times. I can probably count every time I've worn it on both hands in the last 30 years. So fan club member since like 92. Back in the Stone Age where you had to order things by, you know, mailing a letter saying what you wanted and sending like a, you know, I forget what you call it. It wasn't a check. What did you call it?
Like a money order.
A money order. That's it. I'm like, what is that word? It's a check, but not a check. Yeah, you have to go. I'd have to go to like the grocery store and get a money order for a certain amount, and then like mail it to them, and then wait, you know, for a month for something to show up. When you had to buy VHS tapes through them for like $60 a piece.
Yeah, that stuff was expensive. Yeah.
Yeah.
But some of it was worth it. I remember Snuff, and I think there was one called The Gladiators that was on VHS, and I got those. So it's, I mean, what is your collection like? Like I have mine kind of like how I have this stuff here is it's one shelf, and they're like box sets, numbered, not numbered, then like the spin-offs and everything else. Like so they're all, which was easy for me to pull these because they were already right there numbered. How do you have your collection? Because you probably have a lot more than I do.
Ooh, so I've been collecting movies since 1987-ish, give or take, and to this day, I have essentially everything that I've ever bought. I don't sell or get rid of movies. It's, I won't show what's behind the camera, but there's stuff everywhere. It's not presentable at the moment, but I'm in my TV viewing room, we'll say. But I have a movie room. I have to have a specific room that is literally just nothing. It's literally nothing but DVDs. And the room is filled top to bottom, wall to wall with shelves. I have some old rental shelves through the middle of the floor as well. And it's all strict alpha. I don't have anything organized by, unfortunately, I don't have anything organized by filmmaker or production company or anything. I would love to have, you know, like the full moon movies with all the numbers, you know, in numerical sequence. That would make me really happy. But I just, I think when you reach the point of collection like I have, you don't have that much space to be, I say this with love, but I don't have enough space to be bougie about the way I trying to organize my stuff. It's just easier and more simplistic to just have everything in strict alpha. You know, I start with like symbols, then, you know, numerical numbers, and then A to Z. And it's much easier to find stuff sometimes. Say if I wanted to just go in and grab a handful of different things to be like, here's all of this, you know, it's a process because there is so much. And it's to the point where I don't actually almost have space to rotate and make new space to fit new stuff in alphabetically. So it's getting kind of bonkers. And then the VHS is kind of all over the house. And I have a corner in this same room where I have way too many Blu-rays that are all strict alpha. And I own 5 Laserdiscs. So one of them being Full Moon's Arcade. So
okay.
The other 4 being witchcraft films. So
okay. All right, yeah, I know those. So I got I have 3 Laserdiscs, and they're the Star Wars movies, the original Star Wars.
Okay.
When Star Wars was still called Star Wars, when you know, before all the changes, and so I have those for that, but that's about it. So my stuff is very confusing for me. I did it, you know, it's you know, this is all Wild Eye, all this. That's easy. I know if something's on Wild Eye. But when you start getting down here, I'm getting these little niche companies where there's only maybe 3 titles in that company, And then I'll be all over my apartment going, where is that damn movie? Because I don't remember the name of the company because it's so tiny. And I just happened to find 3 movies with that same company that I've kind of screwed myself with trying to find films. So now I got to go through and figure out, all right, do I do this alphabetical? Do I do it by category, Dracula or just vampires?
I would love to be like that. I just don't have the space anymore. I would love to just be like, here's my Tim Thomerson shelf or something, or like, here's all the Robin Sidney movies here or something, and here's all my Evil Bong shelf with because even some of the Evil Bong movies, I have numerous different versions on some of them, so which happens, the Ginger Dead versus Evil Bong, I have a regular case and then a slimline case that came out of the cereal box, and the original Evil Bong, but then I have like a Roadshow exclusive version of it.
Oh, wow.
Some things I just have way too many alternate versions of that probably is pointless, but I love it and I don't want to get rid of any of it. So,
well, as long as you like it, that's absolutely fine.
I love, as silly as it might sound, even not necessarily just sitting and watching all of it all. I love the collection and being able to look at it and organize it. And I think it's very visually pleasing. I like the way all my things look organized on a nice clean shelf. And I like alphabetization really makes things simpler. So,
well, for us, it's like wallpaper.
Yeah.
You sit back and you just look at what you have, and it
literally is the wall. Like, it literally is the wall, because where the shelves stop in my movie room, they stop, we'll say here, and then on top of that is like just box sets stacked to the ceiling. There's no space. So
no, I feel you on a lot of that. So but speaking of collections and movies and alphabetical and all that, let's start with number 1 of these 2 stacks here. So you kind of already saw what number 1 is, and that's it's Mansion of the Doomed, which I never thought they would release. I originally had this on VHS. I didn't think this would ever see the light of day from them. I figured it'd just be let's just kind of put that under the carpet. And no, it's number 1. So
that is the first professionally produced and released film Charles Band ever produced. First film, technically his second movie, though, because there was the what is now considered movie number 0. Are you familiar with that?
No, what's that?
So before Mansion of the Doomed, Charles Band, around the same time, he had a good friend who was I believe a writer, and he was a producer named Frank Ray Pirelli. Frankie Pirelli was someone who Charles Band would go on to do some of the kind of like sexy spoof things, like I want to say like Fairy Tales and Cinderella and those kind of earlier titles, because that was kind of his sense of humor. And he talked Charles Band into making a movie that was a Last Foxtrot in Burbank.
I have heard of that. Okay, yeah.
Or was Last Tango in Paris is what it was called. Sorry, I'm getting the title mixed up. Last Tango in Paris spoof that was called Last Foxtrot in Burbank, starring Michael Pataki. It was actually the first professional job for John Carpenter. Had a brief part in, and he actually edited the film for Charles Band.
Oh wow, I need that one then.
Yeah, and it's awful. He was very it's kind of like an erotic comedy spoof thing of Last Tango in Paris, and he really wasn't a fan of it. It screened and then just sort of vanished and was considered lost media for the better part of almost 40 something years, until a trailer got found, and then somehow they ended up finding a copy of the film in a university archive many years later, and he got a hold of it and they scanned it and remastered it, and it is movie number 0.
So does it actually say 0 on the spine?
I believe on the Blu-ray. On the Blu-ray, I believe it does. Yeah, and on screen it does say 0, I believe. It's only available on Blu-ray in the archive box set volume 1. It is not available as a standalone DVD. So, but that was kind of buried and doesn't count. So technically Mansion of the Doomed is what's considered ground zero for Charles Band's producing.
Yeah, and there's some people in this. Lance Hendrickson is in this.
Yeah.
The cinematography is by Andrew Davis, so I'm guessing is Andrew Davis of like Under Siege and The Fugitive.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, and then the music is by Robert O. Ragland, who I know from Grizzly. Yep. And he also did like 12 to Midnight and some other films. Executive supervision is Albert Band.
Yep.
And then the Frank Ray Pirelli, how do you say
it? Frank Ray Pirelli. Yep.
Yeah, so he wrote it, and then Charles Band produced it. So
there you go.
He didn't direct it though. So yeah, okay. All right, so we got some people in this. Yeah. Wait, it says effects by Stan Winston up here too.
Oh yeah. I mean, Charles Band's worked with the gamut of people. So, and those earlier films, a lot of those earlier films are quality examples of some of the pedigree of talent that came through that window. So,
wow. Yeah, the special features on this one are Charles Band's 70s Grindhouse trailers. So those are probably fun.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So this next one, and this is listed as number 2, is Crash.
Crash.
This film I searched for decades because I remember seeing it on TV. That's when I finally knew who Charles Band was. Yep. And this is TV days with VHS. So if you missed it, you're like, damn. You hope that it showed up within like the next couple of years again.
Yeah.
And I could never find it until I did like some ratty old VHS tape, a long time ago.
Yeah.
And at like a Tower Records outlet store or something. Ooh. So had to buy it immediately.
That movie's wild. That movie's so wild. And that is David Dakota's favorite movie.
Oh, really?
Yep. Absolutely obsessed with that movie. So,
I mean, it's got Jose Ferreira's in it, John Carradine, once again, Andrew Davis, and now this one is produced and directed by Charles Band.
Yep.
It's got a fair amount of special features on it too, audio commentary and some other stuff.
Yeah, he collected loads of just junker cars for a long period of time to make that movie, and just literally destroyed them all. So many, I think, vehicular, tickets and, paper trail for Charles Band's name for many years to come after that movie was made. So,
yeah, I mean, just looking at the pictures of the cover, I wouldn't doubt it. So
it's probably got the most car crashes of probably any movie ever made in it.
Let's see if it talks about that. No, it does talk about that an occult object has taken possession of a driverless car.
Yeah, I think it was called the Kaza. It was like some little talisman thing.
Yeah, it's got a little guy right there.
Yeah, I want to say there was a point where Charles Band took Dave out for his birthday, and his gift to him was one of the 2 Kaza props that they used in the movie, and he gave that to him. So I think it's one of his
would be cool
possessions. So yeah.
So now we're skipping 3. I don't know what 3 is, but we're jumping to 4, and that's World Without End. It's remastered with Christopher Lee.
Okay, so number 3 was Cinderella, actually, and then we go to End of the World.
Oh, okay.
So End of the World is, I think mostly everyone remembers that movie because of its ending.
Doesn't the world blow up?
It's literally the final shot is the planet exploding.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
It's like the most ballsy, like, fuck everyone, the entire planet is dead ending. So I know Christopher Lee wasn't very happy with the finished product of that movie. I feel like before he died, he was on record saying that was like, one of the movies he wished he hadn't done.
I remember liking it.
But it's a fun movie. It really is.
Yeah, it's directed by Jonathan Hayes.
Yeah.
And once again, it's got your writer, the Frank Ray Pernelli.
Yep.
Yeah,
I'm
going to get his name right. So yeah, one of these. Dean Jagger, Christopher Lee, and Christopher Lee plays a priest in it.
Yeah.
So I remember it being just weird as hell. I liked it.
It's very wild. It's very odd, but very fun. And like I said, it's got a banger of an ending because that you don't expect that. So
I'll have to rewatch this, as I haven't seen this in a very long time. But it does say director John Hayes, Grave of the Vampire is awesome. Garden of the Dead is on my top 5 for one of my favorite zombie movies. I love Garden of the Dead.
There you go.
Yeah. So that's even more reason. So, okay. Featuring iconic Christopher Lee from Horror of Dracula and The Wicker Man. So vintage full moon trailers are the special features on that. And so that was 4. Now we're jumping to 7.
Number 7.
So do you know 5 and 6?
Number 5 was Auditions, which is one of I believe, the earliest film appearance for Linnea Quigley. And number 6 was Fairy Tales, another, I believe, Frankie Ray written.
I'm gonna guess I don't have a lot of his softcore.
It's an acquired taste, honestly. They're not movies that I love watching, but they're entertaining. For their time, they were amusingly silly.
I'm pretty sure I saw a lot of them on like Cinemax or Showtime, back in the day when you had the box or the dial, you push the 2 buttons. And so I'm pretty sure I've seen I know I've seen Cinderella, Fairy Tales, even Alice in Wonderland. Some of those I know I've seen, I just don't own them.
Yeah, I think it was kind of a thing back then to do sort of like, erotic spoofs of fairy tale type stuff. It was a thing.
Yeah. And in most cases, I think that it worked on those.
Yeah.
I just know that there's stuff that I don't think I would really watch today. But as a young teenager or, 10 or 12, 13, whatever it might have been, boobies, type of thing. Ooh, look.
You caught it at like 3 a.m. on Cinemax and you're like, ooh, what am I watching?
Yeah, your parents are asleep and you sneak out and you hope they don't see the TV because you're watching it in the dark. And
you got your hand on the control waiting to click the channel just in case they open it up.
Which then goes from Cinderella to Fairy Tales. You're like,
yeah, exactly.
You're busted no matter what. And now this one, so this is number 7. And this is Laser Blast. I love Laser Blast.
Great
movie. And it's great because you are probably friends, just like I am, with Eddie Deason on Facebook.
Yeah.
Who is in this movie.
Yep.
He plays one of the bullies.
Yep.
And do they show a picture of him here? They don't, unfortunately.
Probably his earliest-ish film appearance, I want to say, maybe. Because that predates Grease, doesn't it?
Yeah, this is or maybe the date on it is too small. The writing is very tiny. But I know I saw this.
Yeah, Laser Blast is 78. So I want to say it was maybe right around the same time as Grease, give or take. So,
well, and they even got a guy who looks like Mark Hamill.
Totally.
And they have the of course the creature stop motion, which would also be in Star Wars.
Yep.
So I love this film. I've seen this film many times. I own the soundtrack and I listen to it like when I'm writing, and I just really dig this movie. But this one wasn't directed by Charles Band, but it's Michael Ray. But music is by Joel Goldsmith. That's why it's really good.
Yeah. Another crazy early collaboration by someone who went on to be like a giant in the industry. And that movie's significant too, because that's the earliest case in Charles Band's filmography where you have Dave Allen stop motion effects. So, and that was the start of a long trend of quality stop motion effects.
Oh yeah, God, he was good. So, and it also has Roddy McDowall.
Yep. Oh yeah. Very brief, small role by Roddy.
Yeah, and there's the gun. I know they were going to make a sequel to it, but then that changed to Deadly Weapon.
Yeah, there was a brief period where they had promoted. There was key art made for something called Son of Laser Blast, and then the idea of alien weaponry was something that would be revisited, because in, I believe, '89 they ended up making the movie Deadly Weapon, which was one of the later Empire films, starring Rodney Eastman from Nightmare on Elm Street 3 and 4, and Joey from Elm Street 3 and 4, and William Sanderson from Newhart. So, and that, I really enjoy Deadly Weapon. I think it's a really fun movie. It's, I think, one of the very last holdovers from, at this point in time, from the Empire era that's not been released, remastered and re-released onto Blu-ray. And it's a great movie, and that concept would be later revisited again almost 10, 15 years later with the David Duchovny movie Alien Arsenal.
Oh, okay.
Which had two teenage nerds, like a girl and a guy, find alien weapons that are hidden, I believe, inside the wall of their school, and they start using them to get revenge on the bullies in the high school, and then the aliens come back to take the weapons by force. So
of course,
Alien Arsenal, that one's been re-released a few times through streaming and stuff under some alternate titles that escape me. So but it's,
I know it's one. I don't think I own it, so I don't think I know of it, but I haven't seen it.
It's one of those weird ones. Full Moon recently transitioned from being fullmoondirect.com as being their main sales website to being fullmoonhorror.com. Alien Arsenal is one of those weird titles that they still, or at the time, still distributed, but for some reason it was never available on the website. I had to buy it off Amazon, but there is a DVD of it out there with even Duchovny commentary. So fun movie, but I mean, neither one of those movies are Laser Blast, you know, like it's just two different. It's like apples and oranges, you know.
Well, and because that kind of bummed me out with not getting actually a Laser Blast 2, because way back in the day, way before the internet, we're talking still Empire days. Yeah. And when Cliff and I worked at the TAM, there was a newsstand that was not too far up the street in San Rafael, which is basically the street that they filmed American Graffiti on.
Yeah.
And we would go to that newsstand because once a year, Variety would bring out this giant book that was like that thick. And all it was were posters for upcoming movies from all the studios.
Oh, nice.
We didn't care about Warner Brothers. We didn't care about Paramount. We went straight to Canon.
Yeah.
And we went to Empire.
Yeah.
And that's where we saw Laser Blast 2. And he had it was basically just this. It was just a picture of the gun, and it just said Laser Blast 2.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about. It's just the gun with kind of like
yeah. And there was a Trancers. I think maybe it was, well, it would have to be Trancers 2. And I think it was called like Journey Through the Dark Zone. And you would see Jack Death, and he's like this on kind of like a moon type scape type of thing.
Yeah, I believe there was a movie that was going to be made under Empire called Journey Through the Dark Zone, and then for a point, Trancers 4, when it was in pre-production, was called Trancers 4 Journey Through the Dark Zone, and they were going to use that same kind of concept or script, and then it got, I don't know, thrown out for some weird like Romanian castle stuff, but you can find some cool artwork to a lot of those older movies, though. There were a lot of cool movies from the Empire era that there were, because the model back then was, you could go to like, I think like the AFM, like the American Film Market, and you could go and just take a piece of key art. You could just pay someone to make a really dope poster for a movie and be like, this is what we're doing. And you would get foreign distributors would just come up and just, like, I don't know if it was this way, but just like cash on site and be like, boom, we'll take it. And they would literally buy distribution rights for thousands of dollars, and you would
Yeah.
walk away from an event like that with your entire budget, for a movie that hadn't even been made. You just
the
pre-sell
Roger
it.
Corman model.
You
You
pre-sell
make
it.
the poster, and half the poster is not even in the movie.
Yeah, the title
But it
and the
was
poster
great
are what
art.
sell it. Yeah, the title and the poster are what sell it, and then that immediately just gets you the budget, and then you do that, and then move on to the next one. So there were a lot of dope posters made during that period. Unfortunately, a lot of them didn't get made also, so before Empire fell. So some of them are still sort of trickling out. I mean, a good example of something like that is the recent release of Quadrant, which is the first pulp noir title for Full Moon, and it was based on, I don't know how far back the script goes, but the script for Quadrant was originally I should say last almost produced in the 90s, because it was going to be the second film for Linda Hassani, the woman who had directed Dark Angel: The Ascent. She was announced as directing Quadrant back in the mid 90s, and then it never happened. So here we are almost 30 years later, and Charles Band directed Quadrant in Ohio of all places. So those things, I mean, those old concepts still, bounce around and rear their heads from time to time. So hopefully some of that older stuff will still pop up. So
yeah. Well, maybe this is something that you might know about then. So now we're going to, this is number 8. So this is Tourist Trap. So I heard that there was a clusterfuck on the Blu-ray, that it was edited, that it was like a TV cut of the movie.
Yeah, I believe the original Blu-ray version was missing a small chunk of footage. Yeah. I know at points David Schmoller had been asked about it, and he was like, I directed that movie like 40 something years ago. I can't remember every shot, which is understandable. But there was, I believe, an issue where it was released as a slightly altered version by accident.
Yeah, I remember there was a big deal about that, and
I'm
glad I kept this. So, I don't. This is for a Full Moon's Grindhouse collection, free digital copy, any movie on grindhouseflix.com. I never used it. It's just the grindhouseflix.com era, which eventually all just kind of got absorbed into Full Moon streaming. So, because there's really no point in having numerous streaming sites, even though to this day Full Moon does still technically have 2 streaming sites, because they have fullmoonfeatures.com, and then they have the adult movie house, which is like more erotic, mature titles. So, and the director, David Schmoller, he I don't know if he still does anymore. He's probably retired, but he was teaching out here.
Oh yeah.
He was a cinema teacher.
Yeah. Very smart guy. Very, very. I will go as far as to say I think David Schmoller is probably one of the unsung masters of horror. I don't think he gets enough credit, because he has made some incredible films in his day, in my opinion. And Tourist Trap is amazing. It's
very creepy. It's also
so creepy. I saw that movie on USA back in the day. Late on a Friday night or something. It might have been playing during like Up All Night or some shit, for all I know. But it was creepy. Mannequins are creepy, and it stuck with me. And obviously Schmoller would later go on to, he was the first director of a Full Moon movie with Puppet Master 1.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And we can't forget he did things like Crawl Space for Empire, where he directed infamous psychopath Klaus Kinski.
Did you see his short?
I did. Yes.
Yeah. What was it?
Please kill Mr. Kinski,
which is great. God, that's a great short.
Because there were them jokingly planning to kill Klaus Kinski for the insurance. He's crazy. Klaus Kinski was a nightmare to work with for everyone. I think not just David Schmoller, but he did not like. I think he liked to especially test David Schmoller because David Schmoller learned as time passed to modify his directing approach and basically trick Kinski into giving him what he wanted. He'd be like, "Don't do this. I need you to do that." And he'd be like, "Oh, okay." And then he'd do exactly the opposite of what he told him to do.
Yeah. Yeah, because in the short, he would say like action, and then Kinski would be like, don't say action.
Everyone's always saying action.
So then he would have to do, I'm making this up, but he would have to say something like pineapple. And then it would start, and then later on he'd go pineapple, and Kinski would be like, why
are you always screaming cut? It's like, what would you like to say? He's like, oh, when I'm done, I'll stop. Like, when I'll begin when I'm ready. Yeah, he was super, everything just had to be, it was like a trial for him. So more power to Schmoller for getting through it and making what is actually a really great thriller. Yeah,
really good.
I'm also a huge fan of the Schmoller Empire movie Catacombs with Ian Abercrombie. I think that's such a moody, creepy movie. Unfortunately, it got released post Empire Fall as Curse for the Final Sacrifice, which is a fake franchise, but great movie. And and Schmoller would go on to make like Netherworld for Full Moon in the 90s. So great director, really powerful filmmaker, and Tourist Trap is a testament to how good he is.
Yeah, Chuck Connors, and then of course the music is, and I always pronounce this name wrong, Pino Donaggio.
Pino Donaggio.
Wow, did I get that wrong?
Pino Donaggio, yeah, Pino Donaggio. Pino Donaggio would go on to, I believe, score Meridian, Kiss of the Beast for Full Moon. And, I remember, obviously Chuck Connors was like a big Western star back in the day. I think he was on Rifleman, I believe.
Yeah, he was in a bunch of them.
And great character actor, real tall, real intimidating and imposing. I remember being a kid. I was maybe like in 5th grade, 4th grade, and Chuck Connors came to my hometown in Kokomo, Indiana. He was in town, and actually, as I'm thinking about this, another rare instance of Hollywood coming to Indiana. And he shot a movie in my town that a few years back, I believe, got put out on Blu-ray from Scorpion or like Code Red, called Terror Squad.
Okay.
Where like Iranian terrorists take a high school over and they hold like the detention class hostage, and Chuck Connors was the local sheriff. And Ken Foree was one of the cops. Really like bonkers movie. I grabbed that Blu-ray maybe a year or so ago and sat and watched it with my mom, and we're like, there's the courthouse, there's that road that leads out to your dad's house. There's like all these different, locations that were just kind of mind-boggling to see. And I remember they shot it in the middle school building where they had the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade classes. And they shut that school down. They shut that school down for about a month or something while they shot Terror Squad there. And I remember them busing in all of the 6th through 8th graders to the middle school where I went, and they like doubled up a lot of the classes and stuff because they were leasing the school building out to the production. So Chuck Connors was a great character actor though, and he is super effective in Terror Squad. He's Mr. Slauson is a great villain. Very creepy guy. Very creepy guy.
And he worked with Burt I. Gordon on The Mad Bomber, and Burt I. Gordon does everything big ants, big rats, big cyclops. Everything with Burt I. Gordon was big people.
Yep.
And then he went and did Tourist Trap for Charles Band, where everything is small.
Yep.
So
Yep.
the complete opposite of what he was doing. So
Yeah. Funny juxtaposition.
Yeah. Now this next one is dear to your heart. This is, you love this movie. This is we are jumping way up.
Take a deep breath.
This is, so it's number 83. Can you guess what it is?
Arcade.
There it is, Arcade.
Masterpiece. I mean, maybe not a masterpiece, but in my mind, that's a masterpiece. That is my absolute favorite full moon movie. That is my number one comfort movie. If I am writing and I have like writer's block, I can put in Arcade and play it in the background, and that movie will get my brain cells charged, and it will inspire me to be creative. I've cited that, like, that movie got me through like teen years. I watched that movie. There were points where I was watching that movie like once or twice a week. That VHS, that $60 VHS tape, which I still own to this day.
I should hope so.
Much. Oh God, I have them all. Like I got my money's worth out of that mofo, because I watched it constantly to the point where the tape started to, have like the lines and the bad tracking, because it'd seen some days. So, but that is a great movie. It didn't have a good production or post-production history, had a lot of difficulties getting it made and released, but that version, I think, that is full moon to me. Honestly, that's full moon.
Well, and this has Megan Ward, who I had a massive crush on at the time. And I said, what's awesome is if we got married, she wouldn't have to change her name.
Right?
Yeah. Unless she wanted to hyphenate, it would be Megan Ward. So, which would be, a little different. Then, of course, Peter Billingsley, who went on to be a big time producer.
Yeah.
Working with people like, Vince Vaughn and Jon Favreau.
Yep.
We got Seth Green, in there. And screenplay by David S. Goyer.
Yep.
And also a man, this is a bucket list guy because he lived out here in Vegas, and I only got to work with him once, which was Albert Payun.
Yeah.
So
yeah, great. I mean, Megan was like a queen of full moon at the time. Crash and Burn, Trancers 2 and 3, Arcade. Peter Billingsley was just still kind of at the start of his career. Seth Green was obviously still kind of a nobody. He's not billed. I mean, at the time he was a much larger star, but that movie has John Delancey from Star Trek Next Generation, which he played Difford, the guy who is, he brings in the version to the arcade to show them all and gives them the home versions. That odd trivia for you, that movie would be the first of 3 movies that John Delancey made where he played the guy behind bad video game technology. He did that. He did one called Evolver with Ethan Embry and William H. Macy, where it was about an evil video game. And then he also played the guy who developed the video game programming system that they use for the inmates in the Gerard Butler film Gamer.
Oh, okay.
But I love Arcade. David S. Goyer's, I believe, first 2 produced screenplays were for Full Moon, Arcade and Demonic Toys. So it's funny, you look on IMDb, usually any movie that has demonic toys related to anything, he still gets like a characters by script credit for creating characters like Baby Oopsie and Jack Attack and stuff like that. So he got his start with Full Moon. And Pune, I mean, he did 2 movies simultaneously for Full Moon. I believe he shot that and Doll Man back to back. Or
Brick Bardot.
Brick Bardot himself, yeah. Or I believe they weren't even back to back. He was shooting them simultaneously. So,
yeah, I was really happy to work with him. So I got him to sign my Nemesis box set and got some pictures with him and stuff like that. So
Pune was a great guy. He was a very friendly man. And I've said this before, but I'll say it again. I think of, people tend to like to appreciate people more after they're gone. And I think that people a lot of times malign Pune's filmography while he was alive. But Pune was very much that man. When he made a movie, like, there was a vision. Like, you can watch any movie of his and you can see there's like a vision. He was legitimately of B type directors. To me, he was literally an auteur. Like, and I don't use that word very often. Like, he was a guy who crafted his films. Like, he was a very I think he was a very talented director, and he took the job very seriously. He loved film.
Oh yeah. I mean, Down Twisted is one of my favorite films. I think it's one of his best movies. And I've been following his films for a very long time. Cliff and I, we went to Burbank to go see a movie, and there he is walking. He had 2 film cans, and he was just walking, long hair with the Hawaiian shirt. And we're like, isn't that? Yeah. And it's like, and so I've been over to his house a few times, and he was nice enough to give me unreleased director's edition of Captain America.
Oh wow, with him on the cover.
And so I mean, these are like homemade, things that he did.
That's wild.
And then he gave me a film that he did called Bullet Face.
Oh wow.
Which I've never heard of. I still haven't watched it yet.
I was gonna say, I've never even heard of that one.
And it's got like a whole thing inside.
Oh yeah.
So and then he gave me the director's cut of Cyborg called Slinger.
Oh wow. Damn.
Yeah, which is and it says here it's Cyborg Trilogy Part 1.
Yeah.
So, and once again, all kind of homegrown. So.
Yeah, that's wild though. Those are collector's items to the max. Pune, Arcade and Doll Man were his second and third movies for Charles Band. He made a movie under Empire as well called Vicious Lips.
Oh yeah.
Like a sci-fi comedy thing. And he would do these 2 for Full Moon, and after that, unfortunately, he never collaborated with Full Moon again. I don't think the experience with Arcade was very favorable. I know in post he was just not involved. The movie was originally deemed undistributable. It was not. Charles Band was not happy with the product that they had. He hated the digital effects that were created, and that's when Daniel Schweiger was promoted to AP, to associate producer, and he basically spearheaded a full-on new post and rebuilt the movie from scratch, and completely re-edited the movie, did a whole new sound approach, really did everything he could to get the movie into the version that is on that disc. And when he did it too, Peter Billingsley was still a nobody at that time. He was just one of those kids from, the kid from Christmas Story. He wanted to learn more of the behind the scenes stuff. So he came in and worked a lot during the post on Arcade, and did a lot of uncredited post-production work on Arcade as a learning experience. That was like an early film school for him.
Oh, wow.
And that movie does have its alternate version of the original cut. Does exist. You can watch it on YouTube, and it's a completely different film. Every shot in the movie is practically different. Completely different score, absolutely inferior digital effects. But it's an interesting thing, I guess, but I wouldn't recommend anyone watch it because it's not good. And sadly, I do know for a fact that up to Pune's passing, he had never actually seen the finished version of Arcade. He never watched it. So, which is unfortunate because I do mean in the strictest sense of the term, like that movie has a lot of value to me, and it really is. It's an important film for me. And I do mean it in the strictest sense, in that like that movie has kept me focused and centered, and it's one of the main reasons I'm still here doing what I'm doing. So it might sound silly without going into detail about that, but you know, certain different movies hit for different people different ways, you know, and that movie hit the nail right on the head for me. So I love it.
Well, and I'm going to guess that this one does not hit too many people in the head. And that is number 39, Galactic Gigolo.
Woo! Yeah, that one probably doesn't hit with anyone.
Yeah, I don't even think that this was really a like a full moon. I remember this being on one of like the sub labels when it originally came out on like VHS.
I'll be honest, I forget what production company made it off the top of my head. I know it's Carmine Capobianco as the Galactic Gigolo, and I know it also has Michael Citroniti, who would go on to be like Myron Stackpool, the head of the family. The silly like sex comedy, I guess. You know, odd side note, I own the original art board for that movie with a version, like an airbrushed version of that very artwork. I own the original art board in my movie room. So
nice. Okay. Well, that's something then. Something good came out of Galactic Gigolo then.
Yeah. There's like a plastic cover over it, and there's like a Post-it note stuck to it that says Space Car.
Well, there it is. It's
the space car. I can't remember what his name is. The character had a really odd name, and it
like EOJ.
Eoj, yeah,
Eoj.
Eoj, that was his name. Yeah, yeah. That movie's not the greatest, but you know, it's silly comedy. It's something that maybe didn't age quite as well. Kind of like some of the sexy fairy tale spoof kind of stuff. It's kind of a product of its time, but you know, amusing enough.
And this is also one that I don't think was originally a full moon. I think it was a sub label, but it's number 43, and that is Charles Band presents Slave Girls from Beyond Infinity, which I did see in the theater. Down in San Francisco at like the Strand or the Electric, or the St. Francis was another one. They all played these movies.
Yeah.
Like I said, you'd watch like 6 of them in a row because they're all really short.
That would have been crazy to see on a big screen. That was one I remember actually catching on late night Cinemax and watching, and I was like, what the fuck is this? And I loved it. It felt like, I don't know, I didn't really differentiate the difference between big budget and low budget. I was just like, it seemed like something that was just like this wild, like fantasy sci-fi thing with like, but it had kind of like you watch it today, I don't really see it, but it felt like it had kind of like a dirty edge to it. So I was like, I felt like I wasn't supposed to be watching it. But it's, you know,
well, that's because it's big movie, big production, big girls.
Big girls. Probably one of the greatest taglines to a movie ever.
Well, yeah, and it's just you know, the most dangerous game, just a science fiction version.
Of most dangerous game in space. Yep, just with really hot women.
But the interesting thing about this is, I got to work with Brink Stevens, so she was in Meat Hook Massacre 4.
Yep.
But I asked Elizabeth Caton out on a date.
Oh yeah.
So Cliff and I were at a convention down in LA, and he knew somebody who knew her, so we met up at the convention, and we got to hang out with her and her friend for the day. Like, we had lunch together, we kind of cruised the convention together, and then at the end, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to be freaking bold here, and I'm just like, hey, you want to go out on a date sometime? And she goes, you know what? You're cute. This is when I was thin and had hair, but I'm dating somebody. And I'm like, I got the cute. Okay, I'm good with that. I tried. Yeah, I got the cute. So I'm good with that.
From Liz Caton, that's something, because she's definitely one of the underappreciated B-movie actresses of that era, I think. So, gorgeous woman. She had a great actress. She had amazing comic timing. Just looked amazing on film, and she had great hair. So, like,
yeah, because it's I get to see it right there. And
yeah,
of course, yeah,
like,
Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2. She was
yeah,
awesome in, and Friday the 13th Part
Friday
7.
She also appeared in another side label venture of that era too, called Assault of the Killer Bimbos.
She was one of the leads. That was their Thelma and Louise film. Yeah, I had that on VHS. I don't think I have that. I don't think I picked that one
Assault
up.
of the Killer Bimbos. Yeah, great. Yeah, she's a great actress. And Slave Girls from Beyond Infinity is a really fun, wild movie. I really enjoy that movie. Definitely,
it's a good one.
Definitely signature Brink Stevens, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And later on, when they would make Trophy Heads many years later, that would be the sequence that gets lampooned, where Brink Stevens, the actress, gets murdered, recreating a sequence from Slave Girls.
Oh, that's funny. Now the next one is, well, these next two, I'm going to do these two together.
Okay.
So this is, it's like 53A and 53B.
Yeah.
We're missing 53C because that has not been released.
And it probably never will be.
Oh, it sucks so much. I even asked Brooks Davis about that. I'm like, is there any way of getting my hands on that so I can watch it? I don't care how crappy it looks, which would be Dungeon Master 2.
Yeah.
And these were originally for Pulse Pounders Volume 1. Yeah. So they finally released a lost classic, finally unleashed, H.P. Lovecraft's The Evil Clergyman. And they also did the original Trancers 2, that was Trancers in the City of Lost Angels.
Yep.
And they're both roughly 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And they added some special features and stuff like that to it. But man, was I happy when these things came out. I grabbed them immediately.
That was a perfect example of more lost media, because Pulse Pounders, the feature, was thought to be lost for decades until they found that like a master VHS tape of it, and they remastered them and got those two. From what I've heard, Dungeon Master 2 still has a lot of unfinished material and some unfinished effects work. I could be wrong on that, but there's things about it that dictate that it hasn't been released yet. But those two were fully completed. Pulse Pounders, the idea being that it be sort of like an anthology film, but each film is a sequel to previous Empire films. So you had, obviously, the City of Lost Angels is a Trancers sequel. Dungeon Master 2 is obviously a sequel to Dungeon Master. Evil Clergyman was sort of a spiritual sequel to, like, From Beyond, because it's sort of like, From Beyond and Reanimator kind of era, because it's like Lovecraftian kind of horror.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's got Jeffrey Combs, Barbara Crampton, David Gale, and then we got, of course, the great David Warner, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that right there is a
classy, super classy cast. Those are both really fun movies, honestly. Evil Clergyman's really moody and atmospheric, and I really, really, really love City of Lost Angels. I think it's actually better than some of the actual feature-length sequels.
Yeah, it was, I have to be honest, is I think the idea for like my films, my AXEMAS films being 30 minutes, I think I got from these, to be honest, because I realized that you could make a feature-length story in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And I think so it wasn't like Tales from the Crypt or anything like that, which I know had something to do with it, but it's things like this. If it wasn't fully these, it was this stuff that made me go, I could make a 30-minute movie with a feature-length script in it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So, and of course, this has Helen Hunt in it, and it's got a bunch. I have to admit, and you might moan, I am a fan of Trancers 6. I like Transfer 6. I like Jack Death going into a woman's body.
It's an interesting concept. I'll give it 100% credit for being, you know, taking a kind of edgy, original kind of twist on the material. I just it's the one movie of the bunch that didn't age well. And it I think it's a prime example of one of those cases where certain people are always just going to always be that character, and there will never be another Jack Death, in my opinion. Like, Tim Thomerson is Jack Death.
Yeah. You there's yeah. I mean, I guess they figured, well, if we find a quick talking, snappy, you know, young woman who could play like his great granddaughter or something. And
so they hired like an actress that was like 5'2" or something. ZD Sullivan was her name, and basically hire her to basically do a Tim Thomerson impersonation. And I'm like, but
then Tim Thomerson is doing an imitation of like Humphrey Bogart, and, you know, so I do like in part 6, and I like that they used like a mask, like a Tim Thomerson, like one of those like face masks, like the life mask or death mask, whatever it's called. And they put that onto a dummy, and they destroyed the dummy to kind of be like, okay, you know, Tim Thomerson, you're not in this series anymore if this is a hit. So they blow it up. Yeah. And now this girl's going to take over. But
it's
it didn't happen. So
interesting idea. I would much rather watch City of Los Angeles any day over that, though. It's
I would agree, but I think that it gets a lot of unnecessary hate.
Yeah,
you know, I think it's I like it better than 4 and 5. Transfers 4 and 5.
And kind of conversely to, you know, similarly to your statement with 6, I think I enjoy 4 and 5 a lot better than other people do. 4 more so than 5. Like
I would say 4 is a better film than 5.
Yeah, any of those movies where they were like, it was a double shoot with 2 sequels shooting back to back, I think in any of those cases, the first sequel was always the superior sequel. So
they started doing that a lot.
Yeah, Full Moon really kind of pioneered like shooting numerous movie like sequels like all at once. I mean, the master class of that is one that no one talks about, when Full Moon made the Josh Kirby Time Warrior series for Moonbeam, and they shot 6 90-minute feature films back to back for like 2 or 3 months in Romania. Yeah, I think Transfers 4 is superior to 5. I think Subspecies 2 is superior to 3. I think, you know, Puppet Master 4 is superior to 5. The first one of any pair of those is always the better one. But I mean, I do think City of Los Angeles is better than any of those, though, truthfully. And it's weird because it feels like a sitcom. It's all just like one location for the most part, and just kind of like a situational comedy.
Yeah, okay, I can see that. Yeah.
And plus I want to say, I could be wrong, but I feel like it's the only real sequel that was still written by Bilson and DeMeo.
Yeah, their names are on it. Yeah.
So literally all the other future stuff, I believe, was written by other people. So it still has that genuine Transfers 1 like look and vibe to it, which I really appreciate, because I do think Transfers 1 is maybe as a director, Charles Band's best film.
I love the first Transfers movies.
Yeah.
Well, they even got Art LaFleur back.
Yeah, Art LaFleur, Tom Hopkins. Yeah, they had Tim Thomerson, Helen Hunt, Art LaFleur, Thelma Hopkins, and Allison Croft as Little McNulty.
Okay.
So they had 5 returning cast members for that. It's a really, really solid, fun movie. Just kind of, like I said, it just feels like a silly kind of situational comedy set up like a sitcom.
Yeah. Well, now speaking of something that isn't funny, number 61. Once again, I don't think this was Full Moon. This was another one of their offshoots. I think this was Phantom Video. That would be Dr. Alien.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah, Dr. Alien was a side company. Yeah.
Not much to say about this one.
You know, ironically, I always wished that I had the DVD with me, but there was a period where I worked for AMC theaters down here for about 10 years, 10, 12 years or so. And the Landers family lives here in Sarasota, where I live. And Judy and Audrey Landers used to come into the movie theater regularly with their husbands and children, and their mother would come in a lot. Their mother's a big real estate mogul locally. And I would see Judy and Audrey Landers all the time. And no one knew who they were because, you know, I worked with a bunch of young kids back then. I'm like, dude, that's the Lander sisters. And they're like, I don't know who
I
that
was
is.
born in 1990. How would I know?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't know who that is. I'm like, and the sad thing is, at the time, the only like reference point that I could make was I'm like, they had produced a kids show that their daughters starred on called the Huggabug Club that some people around here knew. And I'd be like, they were on the Huggabug Club. And they're like, oh, why do you care about them? And I'm like, they're so much more than the Huggabug Club, dude. Like, they're the Lander sisters. Like, you either know or you don't. But like Judy Landers, I mean, like, Judy Landers is really fun in that movie. I think that movie's not a great movie. I know some people that actually think that's like Dakota's best film. It's probably got one of the greatest B movie casts of all time because it's got like a laundry list of actresses and talent in it. It's a super fun movie.
Well, and she's here.
Yep.
She's here. Here. And that may be her. And then it just says special appearance by.
Yeah, when she's literally like the major co-star of the film. It's her and Bobby, I think Bobby Jacoby are the leads. So, which is wild. And you know, one thing I've noticed, no one really finds this as fascinating as me, but I'll point it out too, is that in that movie she comes from the planet Alteria. She's an Altarian, and she's here to learn, you know, mating habits, whatnot. About 7 years later, Full Moon would make a movie under a post-Paramount era side label called Surrender Cinema. They would make a movie called Femalien, starring Vanessa Taylor. Vanessa Taylor's Femalien is an Altarian.
Oh.
They would make Femalien 2, Femalien's Seduction of the Species. Femalien Cosmic Crush was part of the Deadly 10. Femalien Starlight Saga. They would later marry in the Femalien species into the Virgin Hunters sequels. Virgin Hunters 2 and 3 actually have Femaliens in them because technically the footage that was fashioned into what was released as Virgin Hunters 2 was actually shot as a Femalien 3 back in the day. So Virgin Hunters sort of exists within the Femalien / Dr. Alien cinematic universe. And if you watch Femalien 1, there's a character played by Jacqueline Lavelle, who I think she plays a character named like Moon or something, you know, like a hippie name. And she says, oh yeah, my sister Star or something like that. I'm kind of pulling names out of my ass, but it's comparable. It's like, my sister Star does this. Surrender would later make another movie called The Erotic House of Wax, which also starred Elizabeth Caton, that had the twin sister Star. So the Femalien, like Altarian cinematic universe crosses well over 10-ish movies that started with Dr. Alien.
Oh, thanks, Dr. Alien.
Useless trivia.
I had no idea about that. I figured
I don't think anyone else does either. I personally, in my mind, I call it the Altarian cinematic universe. So
I guess Kenneth J. Hall appreciates it. I mean, he was the writer on this. So
yeah, Ken Hall wrote a lot of good stuff for Full Moon. Ken Hall wrote the original Puppet Master.
So, oh yeah, that's right.
Ken Hall also wrote Virgin Hunters. So I have an original script of the unproduced version of Virgin Hunters, which was called Test Tube Teens from the year 2000. That was written in the 80s. I have an original script of that.
So that's what it came out as on VHS.
Yes, it was retitled to that for VHS. Yeah.
So I got it because I worked at Tower Records, and I was able to get screeners. And that was one of the screeners I got. Burt Ward is in that movie. You know, Robin from Batman, the original Batman show. And he was at a convention, and I told my roommate, I said, should I go to this? Is back when conventions cost $5.
You mean like Beach Babes from Beyond?
Beach Babes from Beyond. I'm sorry. Yes. Yeah. So Beach Babes from Beyond had Burt Ward in it. Yeah. But I told my friend, I said, I'll just finish the story then. And then I said, should I go to this convention to get Burt Ward to sign it?
Absolutely.
And he's like, yeah, you should. And because so I went, you pay $5, you stand in line for a while. Everybody else has Batman. I have Beach Babes from Beyond. Yep. And I hand it to him, and he goes, am I in this movie? He's like, hold it. Like, well, your name's right there. And he goes, I guess I am. You know, he signed it. Of course, I don't own it anymore.
As Mr. Bun is what he was billed as. Mr. Bun. He's Mr. Sunbun. He owns the suntanning company, suntan lotion company. It's a great movie. It's a great movie.
Yeah, I guess they retitled it without telling him. So
and I'll tell you what, you know what? The I don't even know what I was gonna say. That's a great movie though. I really enjoy.
I remember it being a fun film.
Yeah, I enjoy that movie a lot.
So now our next one is number 93. And this is the movie I snuck onto Paramount for, and that's Lurking Fear.
Oh, nice. That's a great movie. It's got great monsters in it. Probably has the most amazing trailer ever cut for full moon.
But isn't like half of the movie missing? Like, didn't they, like, because they shot it in Romania, and then when they got shipped over, not half, but like a quarter of the movie is gone?
Oh, that I'm not sure about. I know that I know making it was, I think, very difficult for Courtney Joyner because John Finch was very problematic on set. And I believe most of John Finch's dialogue is actually ADR from a different actor.
Oh, wow.
So very difficult actor. Great movie though. I love that movie. Fun, Lovecraftian weirdness, great cast. And like I said, I think it's genuinely probably one of the most epic full moon trailers ever because it's just naming huge names and it's just shit blowing up. Like,
yeah, I think I did read somewhere, Fangoria or one of those, you know, before the internet was really big, that during shipping, part of the movie was missing and they couldn't go back and reshoot it, which is why it feels not complete. Like it feels a little, it's, maybe. What is it's God, this stuff is so tiny. I can't even say what the running length is, but I don't think it's even 90 minutes.
No, I want to say it's like barely 80-ish, if that. I want to say.
Yeah.
Maybe 70 something, honestly. I want to say maybe like 75, 78.
Yeah. So, and I think that's why. So it's but it's just in case I didn't show it. It's still a good movie though.
Yeah, it's a super fun movie. I love that movie.
And then this one might fall into one of those late night full moon labels. It's number 106, Huntress, Spirit of the Night.
Yeah, Huntress was originally envisioned as a Torchlight label product from like Beach Babes and Virgin Hunters, and it was one that ended up kind of coming out and being released a bit later through one of the sub labels. I believe directed by Mark Manos.
Yes,
starring Jenna Bodner, I believe, was the female lead.
Looking. Jenna, I don't see her on here. Michael Charles Blair. David, Constantine. Oh, Jenna Bogner. There she is. And introducing.
Oh yeah, she gets the introductory billing and introducing Jenna Bodner. Yeah, I think that was a movie that probably had a higher concept than what ended up being in the final version. Let's put it that way.
Well, one reason why I bought it is because I like clear boxes, but I don't like when they do clear boxes and there's nothing inside.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I do love a clear Amaray case, but yeah, if your artwork isn't double-sided, it's kind of pointless.
Yeah. Now, speaking of small things, and Peter Dinklage is probably deeply offended by this movie, because he's not in it. But this is 132, The Creeps.
You know what? I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I think that's probably Phil Fondacaro's best performance. Fun movie, wild, weird movie. Yeah,
it's got all the regular Universal monsters: Dracula, Frankenstein, the Wolfman, the Mummy. Directed by Charles Band. So I mean, it's got everything in it that you want.
Yeah, it's got cool creature effects. I believe the creature effects were Gabe Bartalos. I believe. I could be wrong, but
written by Benjamin Carr, though.
The great Benjamin Carr, who wrote just about everything in that period.
What did you say the effects were?
Was it Gabe Bartalos?
Yes, it's him and another company, Atlantic West Effects.
Okay, yeah,
and him.
I'm gonna say one of probably I think only two-ish movies Gabe Bartalos did effects for, that and Sideshow, and you can tell because Gabe Bartalos's creature effects are really high end, and the creatures look cool in that movie. People can say whatever they want about it being like dwarf-sized Universal monsters, but they're fun. And to Phil Fondacaro's credit as an actor, like, he showed up and took that shit like 200% seriously. Does it with an accent, like, it's like I feel it. Like, I think Phil Fondacaro was probably one of the most underappreciated like independent genre stars ever, honestly. I think he's an amazing actor, super nice guy. We had a convention down here back in 2006. It was like the third ever Spooky Empire, back before they were called Screamfest back then, and Phil Fondacaro was a guest there, and I was like, I have to go to this. I have to meet Phil Fondacaro. And I went down there and waited to meet him, and it was like one of the greatest interactions of meeting a celebrity ever. Coolest, nicest guy humanly possible. Just so cool. And I told him, I was like, maybe to the detriment of people like, Dinklage. I think Dinklage gets a lot of hate lately for obvious reasons. But Full Moon didn't always just cast Phil Fondacaro because he was a dwarf. They cast him because he's a good actor. And when they would cast him, they just cast him as whatever the role was. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, he played the troll, Torok, the troll, but he also played Malcolm, the professor of literature in Troll. Like, they cast him as a security guard in Dollman versus Demonic Toys. They cast him as a vampire slayer in Decadent Evil. They cast him as Count fucking Dracula in The Creeps. Like, the man has range, and he's every bit as good as I think any other person in that position. When I met him, he was at the convention with Vern Troyer, because he was actually married to Vern's. I mean, he probably still is. He was married to Vern's sister, and they were all three there. She was kind of managing the money angle while the two of them were kind of at tables side by side. And it's great experience. It's like I got a picture with Phil, got down right behind the table with him and sat on the floor next to him. And it was one of the greatest convention moments of my life, which is funny because I can tell you briefly, one of the silliest, like hilariously dumb moments of my life was you taking that tape to get Burt Ward to sign it. I think if you go to meet someone like that, you're kind of better served to take something random to get them to sign. because it makes it more unique and it makes
Sure.
the experience more unique. That same convention that I was at and met Phil at, I also met Corey Feldman at. And when I met Corey Feldman, yeah, I wait in line and I get up there and I handed him my DVD that I brought, and he looked at it and he's like, and then he lifted my copy of Citizen Toxie, the Toxic Avenger Part 4, and shook it in my face, like angrily, like shook it in my face. And he's like, of all the things that you could bring for me to sign, you brought this. I said, hey, I didn't want to be the 400th asshole walking up with Goonies, Lost Boys, and Friday 4. I'll give you that, my friend. I'll give you that. And then he slapped it down on the table and signed it. So,
that's funny. Well, yeah, because you're 100% right. Because I went to I think it was a Fangoria convention.
Mm-hmm.
Jack Nicholson was there. He was promoting Wolf, and he went upstairs and talked about it. He was not signing autographs or anything.
Yeah.
But they had the red carpet with the people on both sides. He pulls up in the car. He gets out. He's in the sunglasses. He's doing the whole Jack thing. Everybody has The Shining. Everybody has Batman. Everybody has Chinatown. I have a Monkees album head from 1968 that says Monkees, Monkees, Monkees head. And it's got like tinfoil where you can look at your face in it. You see your own head. Before he made Easy Rider, he worked with the Monkees. He wrote Head. He was one of the producers of Head. He was the music supervisor on Head. And he's in the movie Head, along with like Dennis Hopper and some of the other people who went on to make Easy Rider.
Yeah.
And he went through and I took it and shined it in his face. And he went like that and he looked and he walked right over, grabbed it, took my black pen, Jack Nicholson, and handed it back to me. And everybody was like, and he just moved on. I was one of 2 people who got autographs.
Nice. Yeah,
he doesn't want to sign The Shining.
That's what you got to do. You got to catch people off guard. Honestly, I'll give one more quick example. Like someone else that I just adore is Ken Sagos, who played Kincaid in Elm Street 3 and 4.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I love Ken Sagos. Just something about him. I love his energy. He cracks me up. He's such a fun, nice guy, and I have seen him a few times at conventions, but what I took him to sign was I took a Trauma distributed movie that he was in called Death by Dialogue.
Another Trauma film. Awful
movie, but like he's got a lot of weird like dancing and stuff in it that they just play on repeat and like loop it over and over. It's honestly, it feels like a movie written by someone on like acid or something. Cause it's like, if you were watching a movie and we were like, man, wouldn't it just be crazy if like, motorcycles blasted through the walls and, you found a random hair band playing like rock music in the forest, random stupid shit that makes no sense happens in this movie. And I was like, would you sign my Death by Dialogue? And he just like started laughing. Like he was like, what the hell where'd you find this? He was like, I can't believe this is even on DVD. I'm like, it's only in a box. It was only in like one of those like Trauma for a while did like triple pack releases called like Toxie's Triple Terrors.
Oh, yeah. I think I have one of those with Garden of the Dead in it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was only in one of those box sets. So I brought the the case from that and had him sign it. And he just thought that was like the funniest thing ever, that I had a Death by Dialogue.
Okay.
So that he appreciated that. So
that is funny because not this movie, but the next one, I have a similar story. Now we're talking about good things, meeting up with good people, getting these autographs, turning a frown upside down with these people. This with you and I and Jonathan Moody did not turn a frown upside down. That would be number 177, Totem.
It's a movie. Like,
It was for people who don't know, Jonathan Moody had both of us on his show,
yep.
and we reviewed Totem, which I had never seen before.
Yeah.
And despite it kind of having a cool box cover, yeah, it's like you said, it's a movie. It's definitely not a film. It's a movie.
Yeah, it's one that Dave didn't even want to direct, honestly. I think they had someone, I want to say, attached to direct it, and they like got fired or walked or something, and the effects just were like not up to snuff. Like nothing was like on par with that movie, but Charlie was dead set on that movie getting finished. So I believe he directed that on the notion of he directed that and got it finished, and then as a sort of thank you, he was given permission to make Voodoo Academy, which was like Dave's pet project. So, but unfortunately, in that process, we got that movie. So,
well, but it is it's directed by Martin Tate, though.
Oh yeah, Martin Tate.
Martin Tate.
Yeah,
the new Alan Smithy.
Yeah, one of Dave's many nom de plumes, like one of probably about 14 pseudonyms Dave used around that period.
And Dave would be, to let people know,
David Ducoto.
David, yep. And written by Benjamin Carr, produced by Charles Band, original story by Charles Band. What do you think about that long credit of based on an original idea by Charles Band?
I love that credit personally. I am a fan of the original, based on an original idea or concept by credit. I remember getting criticized by the late Ted Newsom online a few years back by having that on a script page and saying, "Oh, it's super egotistical" or whatever. And I'm like, it's just a fancy way of saying like story by, you know what I mean?
Well, because it isn't concept, it is idea. And I remember it being on everything. And it's like, really, are you getting that extra $50 or whatever it is because that's on the poster?
Yeah.
And my friends and I always used to make fun of it because the ideas are coming from Charles Band to begin with. So why do you have to put that on here? And it would take up like the entire one row of the credits.
It's like a whole sentence just to get to the credit.
Yeah, it's not idea by, it's based on an original idea by Charles Band. My hand's going off screen. And it's like, wow. And on this, director of photography, Howard Wexler, who I worked with on Evil Bong 777. I actually worked with the DP who worked on this movie.
He probably doesn't remember shooting that movie, but I will admit it's definitely, no offense to Wexler, but it's definitely not his best work. So there's the one thing that always stands out in my mind from that movie is the moment where the zombie guy has come back from the dead and he's come out of the grave and he's attacking the girl. And at one point his shirt kind of comes up in the back and you can just see his, like, the regular skin of his back, because he's not made up like a monster underneath the clothing. Like, they just were trying to get that movie finished is all. That's one of those movies that just like toiled around at Full Moon for the longest time. And it was like one way or another, that thing was getting made and finished. And it eventually did, for better or worse. I think the modern day equivalent to that, in my hope and dreams, is The Grim Rapper.
The Grim Rapper.
The Grim Rapper, yeah, which is a script that's been around at Full Moon since, I want to say, the mid-late 90s, and has had numerous directors attached to it over the years, like Danny Draven and James Black. Billy Butler was actually attached to direct it during the Deadly 10, but it unfortunately was one of the stragglers that didn't get made. So
wasn't there a certain director out there who ripped off that whole concept? What wasn't there a certain director out there?
Yeah, there was like the sinister. I'm for some reason the phrase that comes to mind is the Sinister Six or something.
That's like
a Marvel thing. I want to say
the initials. Yeah, just ripping off Full Moon.
Yeah, he had something where he was trying to have like a 6 or 7 movie pack of releases that were going to kind of emulate that, and even made a company logo that sort of emulated
very much.
the famous full moon logo. So, but imitation is the greatest form of flattery, I guess. So,
well, for him, it's just ripping off. So.
Flattery.
Yeah.
Some people are, I can be happy in that, like, I've had my name on numerous full moon movies as a producer. I've never really worked on any of the sets. I've not been on a full moon set like you have, but I've been involved on lower levels of many things. And I'm happy with that. I'm happy to see things getting made and completed. I'm a member of Full Moon's Patreon, helping get the pulp noir films made. So, and I'm totally fine with that. Some people aren't fine with the opportunities that have come their way in the past. So we'll
kind of squandered it, even though they've worked on them. So, but, but as we were talking about, like meeting people, getting autographs and all that type of stuff. So when I was on Evil Bong 777, like I mentioned, Danny Draven was there because he was editing the movie. So, and once again, this was oh my God, that's Danny Draven. Yeah. And so he was talking, and as he was walking away, Mr. Draven is what I called him. And he's like, yeah. And so we talked for like 10 minutes while they were setting up for the next shot. And he goes, well, what's your favorite film of mine? I said, Horror Vision.
Great movie. Yeah, great movie.
He went, just like Corey Feldman, are you serious? I hate that movie.
It's a great movie, though. It's a great movie. I
love this film. So I don't have it here because it's in a different stack, because it's part of that Lunar, I think it is, like Lunar Videos.
Yeah, the Lunar Edition DVDs. Yeah, there were five Lunar Edition releases. Yeah,
and
small of the few.
I asked him if I brought in a couple things for him to sign, would he do it? And he's like, yeah, I'll sign that for you. And so I did. I brought it in the next day, and he signed it for me.
Awesome.
But the reason why I have this, and there's a couple others in here, is he brought me a bag of movies and CDs because his wife does his music.
Oh, yeah.
And he just handed this bag to me. He goes, here you go. And it just had movies and CDs in it. And I'm like, how much do I owe you? He's like, dude, you're a fan. Here. They're yours.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my God. So that's how I got this new version of the film. And it got, the number, the 193 or the other one. Because he goes, why do you have that old copy? And that's why he gave me this.
That old copy, though, one thing that I can say about those Lunar editions were like stacked releases. They had so much bonus content as opposed to newer stuff. Granted, those newer, when the Draven films got re-released to DVD, like Horror Vision with the number stamped spine, and Hell Asylum with the number stamped spine, and Deathbed, a lot of those, they would re-release those with the number stamp, and he would do like newer, modern, for the time, modern commentaries and stuff. But I love Horror Vision. I think it's really high concept. James Black is amazing in that movie.
Yeah, and it's J.R. Bookwalter.
Yeah, produced by J.R. Bookwalter. I want to say that was maybe one of the earliest instances. There was a period that I like to call everything was produced by Tempe Entertainment / J.R. Bookwalter period, where there were a lot of co-productions with Tempe.
Oh, and there were a lot.
Because I want to say it was with Shrieker. Dekotu was directing Shrieker for Full Moon, and he ended up having J.R. come out and edit the movie for him. And that basically started a fairly long career of JR being an editor at Full Moon for a number of Dave's movies and stuff. So he worked for Full Moon for a good amount of time until he got his first Full Moon directing job with Witch House 2. And eventually, as times and sort of the industry sort of shifted and things were going from, more film to like DV and that kind of wave, as far as the technological shift, they started doing a lot of movies co-produced by Tempe, JR's company, and that was one of them. And I believe at the time, I want to say Danny was a protege of JR's. That he got a lot of the people JR was friends with or worked with a lot got their first directing opportunities in those co-produced by Tempe Entertainment movies like Horror Vision or Killjoy 2, Dead and Rotting, etc.
Yeah, I was very bummed because I was going to be working on Ouija's, and because he shot that out here too. And,
Yeah.
Miranda Dudley, my effects artist.
You're gonna say literally same location as Evil Bong 777.
Yeah, it's at the hotel that's just down the street from me. I'm in walking distance of it, and but my job wouldn't give me it off. They wouldn't let me have it off, and it's like, okay, do I quit and not be guaranteed a job after this? I just said, I'm sorry, I can't do it, and I was really bummed about that. But I mean, with TerraVision, that robot there just kicks ass.
Oh yeah, dude! Like Mephisto is a great monster. The movie's got cool monsters, Mephisto and Wetwire, and the little like robot like caterpillar centipede monster things in it. It's got cool creature effects. Yeah, it's a really ambitious sort of like fever dream of a movie. It really is.
Yeah, it's very kind of cyberpunky.
Yeah.
So I recommend it, but it is for people to know it is very micro budget. It's very
it's very ambitious though, I think.
I think so. I agree.
And it's not a squandered approach to ambition either. I think it's a really fun movie that delivers. And I think it delivers, no offense to anyone, but I think it delivers on a better level than some of the movies that came directly after it, directed by Danny. I think it's a better film than Hell Asylum or Deathbed.
Is it better than Crips?
Absolutely.
Also
absolutely.
And this is number 209.
Yeah. That was, I want to say, the last leg of the Alchemy Entertainment / Big City Pictures phase of urban horror, because companies like Hollywood Video was requesting more urban themed films. So Charles Band started producing basically black horror films. And
apparently because it has a Z instead of an S at the end. So that means it's urban.
That was a thing back in the day too. If you you just put the Z on the end and it immediately made it urban. Vampires, zombies, Crips.
I mean, I don't know. Do black people talk that way? Like, when they sit there and go, so. "Hey, we're gonna go watch Boys in the Hoods."
makes me want to make like a movie called Mummies. And
it just takes place in like South Central.
Yeah, that movie's not good. It's entertaining though. But it's super. Like, I think that movie feels and looks a lot cheaper than Horror Vision, honestly. Because it looks like a strip club faked in a basement or something. I think China, the guy who plays like the hero guy with the muscles, I think China is really good in that movie, but everything else is sort of sus.
Yeah, I think it's Danny's wife did the music on this.
Yeah, I think JoJo did the music. Yeah. She pretty much scores, I think, just about everything of his.
Okay, now we're on stack 2. That was only stack 1.
Yeah.
This is stack 2, and they're the same size. So the next one is Stuart Gordon presents Deathbed.
Look at that. It's almost like I predicted it.
And that's 212.
Yeah, Stuart Gordon. I love that the title is Stuart Gordon Presents Deathbed.
Directed by Danny Draven.
Yep. Fun movie though. It is an entertaining movie, and I love Tanya Dempsey, and Joe Estevez is very good.
Oh, gotta love Joe Estevez.
And I guess it goes without saying too. If you're a big Full Moon fan, you have to love and appreciate Dookie Flyswatter, who plays the ghost in it.
Dookie Flyswatter, yeah, right there.
Dookie Flyswatter, aka his real name is Michael Sonny. Michael Sonny was the voice of Impy Uncle Empy in Sorority Babes in the Slimeball Bolorama.
Ah, okay, okay.
He was also the lead singer for the band Haunted Garage.
All right, okay. I know some of that, yeah.
And he would later make a cameo as a bum in Real Evil for Danny Draven.
We're coming up on that one. That one's right around the corner.
Yeah.
So. This is retitled, and I didn't know it when I bought it. So I
was gonna say I can already feel what you're gonna pull out. Yeah.
Devious. Yeah, it's 244, and it does say variant right up here.
Yeah, there was a weird period where they were releasing a couple different movies with variant titles or artwork, and that was one of the few. And I personally hate that title. I think titles like that are very generic feeling.
Well, the original title is much better,
Skullheads, which I remember him saying at the time too. Skullheads came out and it didn't really perform the way they wanted, and he was like, maybe it needs to be rebranded or something. And they did, I guess, as Devious, but Skullheads is more representative of the product, I think. So that was one of the last 2 films shot in Charles Band's Italian castle.
Oh, okay.
It was part of a double shoot, that and Billy Butler's Demonic Toys 2 Personal Demons, shot back to back at the Italian castle.
Yeah, I guess I didn't realize what variant meant until I saw Skullheads, which I have in a box set.
Yeah.
With like 2 other movies.
Yeah.
And then because I bought this used at Zia Records, and I'm like, I don't think I know this one. It's Full Moon. Let me go take it home. And then I think I was like taking the stickers off, and I saw, previously released the Skullheads.
Yeah. Yeah. When I saw your picture, I had to do my homework and remind myself which movie that was, because it's more so lately on streaming services over the last few years where they will take movies and retitle them. A lot of the Evil Bongs you can find too with just completely different subtitles on them, like fucking The Evil Bong 2 Devil's Harvest or something stupid like that. So, but I couldn't remember what Devious was at first, but there were a few like that. Like I remember Dangerous Worry Dolls got re-released as Parasite Dolls as well.
Okay.
So, and not a fan of the retitling. I hate retitling and rebranding. I can understand why it can be done, but I'm not a fan of it personally.
Well, they also did those weird, which tricked me. Tomb of Terror was one. They tricked me. Where they took 3 movies and made them into 30-minute shorts.
Yeah, there's a very large catalog of those now where they basically take 3 existing features, edit them down into 30-minute shorts, and then cobble them together into a new anthology. And I believe Trilogy of Terror was the first. But since then, there's been maybe 15 or 20 of them, honestly, I want to say. There's been a lot of them.
Yeah, and that because I rented, it's Tomb of Terror. I remember that. And it has the monster from Lurking Fear on the cover. And I'm like, that looks really familiar. But of course, they could use a costume again.
Yeah.
And I rented it from Tower and then brought it home and went, I know this movie. I've seen this film. I know it. I think this is Lurking Fear.
Yeah.
I went, son of a bitch.
In my mind, it's almost like making more content, because then you've got another new movie you can release.
Right.
It's like, I'm not a fan of it. I don't consider those real movies to me, because I would rather just watch the real film, but I don't like the fact that they exist personally. I mean, and there were a lot of those done within even the last year or like 2 years, because there were some newer ones with that were a lot of the kids films like Cosmic Chronicles and Magic and Mischief and shit like that just edit down full features and make baby shorts out of them, and I hate that personally. So
yeah. Well, this next one is not that. So, and it is number 256, and I do believe Miranda worked on this. So that's Charles Band presents Killjoy Goes to Hell.
Oh yeah.
Trent Haga is Killjoy,
Yep.
my favorite one. And I don't think that she would be listed on here. I think it would just be, yeah, it's Tom Devlin. So she worked for Tom Devlin when he did this.
And that movie was I believe they debuted, I want to say maybe the first 30 minutes of that on Full Moon Streaming to begin with. And what that movie actually did was it was a world television premiere on Robert Rodriguez's El Rey network. So.
Okay. And I know I worked with a couple people on this. So,
I'm sure.
John Crius, I've worked with now a couple times.
Yeah.
Of course, Tom Devlin. Yeah. So probably just those two. So yeah.
Movie's got tons of people in it, though. I mean, it's like a movie's got some personal favorites of mine from the indie scene. Like it's got Maria Olsen and Alan Maxon and.
Oh yeah, I'm friends with Alan. So yeah, so so it's
super fun movie. I'll admit of the Killjoy's a weird franchise to me. I think the first two are pretty abysmal. 2, I think, is actually one of the worst Full Moon movies ever made. Personally, Killjoy 2 is almost unwatchable, and then 3 just takes everything and like they cast a spell on the fucking IP or something, and it's just like everything works. The Tom Devlin like redesign of the makeup and the design of the character is just like A+. It's just like everything is on point. And then from there, I feel like they kind of go downhill again because I like Goes to Hell a little less than 3, and then Psycho Circus is below that one because Psycho Circus feels like one of those everything in the kitchen sink movies. There's just too much going on. Like,
well, they went from those urban movies to a comic book Freddy Krueger. Yeah, like you said, like throwing everything but the kitchen sink and the kitchen sink at times, and so they just get crazier. So if you watch the first one and the last one, they're two totally different movies.
You would never realize that that's supposed to be the same character, and it's funny too because you watch part 1 and Killjoy is genuinely played by an African American actor, and then in part 2 through 5, he's a white man. So.
Well, yeah, and the first one is injustice. Like he gets killed and he comes back for revenge.
Yeah.
And the other ones is he's just like the crazy clown. You know? So
it's kind of like they kind of make it into like a sort of like a urban version of Pumpkinhead made with like,
Yeah. Oh yeah, because he goes to the voodoo, like the woman and
like a vengeance demon kind of thing.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right. Yeah. This is one I'm pretty sure Danny gave me this one, Danny Draven. I think it was in that bag. And this is, I believe this is a retitle. So I'm looking for the retitle. I think it was called something Asylum Hotel or Asylum. Well, you'll know it when I show it to you, but it's 258 and it's Real Evil.
Real Evil. Yeah, Real Evil was the original title. It was Full Moon's, I think to this day, Full Moon's only found footage movie. And it was re-released, I believe, under the title Spectres. So
that's what I'm thinking of. There it is, right there.
And do they both have the same number stamp?
So this is signed. He signed it for me. So this is, so that's Danny Draven right there. And let's see.
I think the title Real Evil is more clever personally, but that's just me.
It's a variant. So Spectre, so 258 variant. And then just 258 Real Evil.
Okay.
So, so this one, and it even says the footage has been found.
Yeah.
So so I think this is how I would have to have seen this originally this.
That's a super fun movie, actually. I think that's actually a really, really fun movie with Jessica Morris. And like I said, Dookie Flyswatter has a small cameo in it. I feel like it was shot at I could be wrong. Was it shot at Linda Vista?
I liked working with Jessica Morris. I worked with her on 2 films, actually, a Mahal Brothers film too. And
The Art of Head.
Which was interesting because I was a production assistant, but I was the driver for everybody. So I would pick them up and drop them off.
Yeah.
So I picked up the guys all at once, you know, and then, you know, burping, farting, talking politics, you know, all that type of stuff. And then I picked up the girls. Yeah. And it was 3 women. I learned way too much about women and dating, driving them to the set and back, way too much. Yeah. And it was like living an episode of like Sex and the City or something. Yeah. It was just like, oh my God, I don't think I should know these things. And so it was fun working with them because I didn't get to know Jessica Morris originally, but then when we were doing the Mahal Brothers film, that's when I actually got to know her because of giving the rides and stuff. Yeah. So,
and she was in Evil Bong 777, which you also worked on.
Yeah. So this is a little different. So it's No Rest for the Wicked. It doesn't mention found footage like the other one does.
Yeah.
But I find that interesting because I don't think I knew what variant meant for a while.
Yeah.
And then, Spectres was formally released as Real Evil.
Yeah.
So
cool to have them both, though. I'm a hoarder completist, so I try and have every alternate version humanly possible, even though I don't need them. So,
well, even those ones where the movies were cut down to 30 minutes and made into their own films, I still get those. I still collect them too.
Same.
So it made me mad at the time, but I now pick them up, especially if I could find them used. I could normally find them for
even
like
better. Even better. Yeah. Or wait till a sale on the website and buy them for half off. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, that's how I got some of these.
Yeah.
This one, I did ask Brooks Davis. I'm like, is this racist? Like, have you guys gotten any flack for this? Is this racist?
I can tell you it's very racist.
And it's number 260, and it's Ooga Booga.
Yeah.
And he said, no, they've never gotten any crap about it at all. But as we can see, that's
I feel like it's full moon. People just don't really, I don't think anything of it. So,
yeah, it's directed by Charles Band too. Eventually, he started just directing everything. So
yeah, there's periods where he's kind of like the main guy directing everything, and that was definitely one of those periods. Great cast though with Stacy Keach and Karen Black.
Yeah.
I believe that was one of Karen Black's last films, I want to say.
Oh wow! Well, she doesn't look great right there, so she's not a great picture of her. So. But Stacy Keach, my mom had a massive crush on him. And with Maxwell Comfield from Grease 2, they did Sleuth in San Francisco. So they're doing the play for Sleuth. And we got the programs. And my mom goes, God, I wish I could meet, Stacy Keach. And I'm like, we're going to meet Stacy Keach. So we went around the back of the theater, waited by the exit. Maxwell Comfield came out, I had him sign it. Yeah. And then Stacy Keach came out and he signed mine too. Yeah. And that I still have because I kept all my playbills. And my mom was just like shaking. And I'm like, yeah, my mom has like a huge crush on you. She loves you. She watches everything that you're in. Yeah. And he's like, oh, that's so sweet. And he goes, come here. And he leans in and gives her like a kiss on the cheek and hugs her. Yeah. I thought my mom was going to faint.
Yeah.
He was so nice to do that. And this is back in the day where you could do that without somebody suing you for assault. Yeah,
absolutely.
So, but this is an interesting character.
It's something. I'll admit it's not a personal favorite of mine, but it is, I guess, significant in that it took a side puppet from the movie Doll Graveyard and gave it its own spin-off movie, which I guess is cool. I like Doll Graveyard a lot. People seem to not like Doll Graveyard a lot nowadays, but I love Doll Graveyard, so I always hoped for a sequel, but then instead of a sequel, I got Ooga Booga instead. So, which is, that's fine. But Ooga Booga was also the second film appearance of the character of Hambo, the ranch hand. Maniacal, like piggy-nosed guy. I don't know, pervy children's show host, because he first appeared in a movie called Zombies versus Strippers, and the lead character in that was obsessed with Hambo the ranch hand, and like, and he would always say, he's the greatest, he's the purest guy, with the best of intentions. And then you see like a bigger version of him in that movie, and he's just like this fucking scumbag who's just wanting to offend everyone. And then later Hambo would go on to appear in a number of Evil Bong sequels.
I liked when Full Moon started making this universe, like of combining all these characters together, even if they didn't match.
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't think that they would go together. And all of a sudden there's this one character from this movie and there's that character for those two movies.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that they did that. I would like to see, like the Asylum did that film that Michael Sue, who's a director, DP out here, did for the Asylum, where it was all the monsters together.
Yeah.
Like, Apocalypse something. And I'm blanking on it. Sorry, Michael.
Yeah.
And they just took all the Asylum monsters and put them in the one film. And I'd like to see Charles Band do that, of taking all of these characters and just making one big Full Moon world with all of them.
There was, there was plans for one of those that was going to be a big team up movie, and I also have the key art for that in my movie room, for one that was called The Legion of Doom, and it was originally supposed to be a kind of like Avengers style team up movie with Dr. Mordred, Dollman, the Mandroid, and Benjamin Knight from Invisible, and they were all four going to team up to fight a common evil. And that ended up not happening for whatever reason. But I do enjoy the mix of the bigger universe, and pretty much at this point you can pretty much connect all the major IPs in Full Moon together in one way or another. They all exist within the same world. So
yeah. Well, and people may not know, Dr. Mordred was originally going to be Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they couldn't do it because they lost the rights or something happened where they had to change it to Dr. Mordred.
Charles Band was always a huge comic book fan and huge fan of Jack Kirby and a lot of that stuff. So that stuff goes way back. Even the movie I mentioned earlier, Josh Kirby Time Warrior, was kind of a nod to Jack Kirby because Band just really loves Jack Kirby.
Huh.
So
our next one is a Grindhouse original. It's 262, and it's Blood of Thousand Virgins.
Yeah, the Blood of Thousand Virgins. Blood of Thousand Virgins was the first movie in a handful of these Grindhouse Flicks originals. They were some of the earliest versions of movies made exclusively for the streaming service to debut, and they're just kind of like documentary things hosted by someone that kind of, they play old film clips and trailers to kind of a specific genre of thing, and that's just like old, I guess, virgin sacrifice type movies. I will admit I can't remember the actress's name who hosts that.
Oh, it's right here on the cover. Hosted by Playboy Playmate Nikki Lee. Nikki Lee.
I want to say...
I'm sorry, there's an exclamation point. Hosted by Playboy Playmate Nikki Lee. There you go.
Nikki Lee! I feel like she was in Unlucky Charms around the same time. So, but that was Blood of a Thousand Virgins, I believe, was one of the very first of a handful of weird, like, sort of hosted documentary type examinations of a genre.
Which I don't mind, because I know some of them that I had in those collections from the previous video. Yeah, it was trailers, behind the scenes, clips. It was a bunch of those. And I remember the first one that I had, which then I think Brooks Davis did a sequel to, which was The Best of Blood and Violence.
And famous TNA 2.
Oh, he did Famous TNA too.
Famous
Okay,
TNA
so
too, yeah.
I know. Oh yeah, Famous TNA, which came out around the same time, I think, is the best of Sex and Violence. And
Yeah,
then he did the sequel.
They're very interchangeable, though, as far as films are concerned. They're basically the same movie. Like,
yeah, and I think it's Brooke Stevens and like Gunnar Hansen is on the cover of the Best of Sex and Violence.
Yeah,
and John Carradine is the host of it.
Yeah.
I watched that thing every single day.
Yeah,
and it had blood. I mean, it was the Best of Sex and Violence. And
Yeah,
that's what it had in it. So
and
I don't mind this type of stuff.
Yeah, Famous TNA 1, I think, was hosted by Sybil Danning, and then 2 they had Diana Prince hosting it. There was a third film from the Empire era that was basically a hosted thing like that as well, called Film Gore, that was hosted by Elvira, actually. So so I guess weirdly hosted film clips and trailers kind of things aren't really new for Full Moon. So it was
no
interesting to see them dip their toes back in that pool a smidge.
Yeah, I don't mind it at all. So I do pick those up. This one you had just mentioned. This is 264, and it's Unlucky Charms.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So that's
it's
I guess their leprechaun type movie. I guess I've never seen it actually.
Yeah, I want to say the lead villain is I think his name was Fardarig, the Red Man. He's kind of like a little leprechaun type creature. Group of people shooting a reality TV show, I feel like, and it has like Charlie O'Connell, Jerry's younger brother, in it, and there was 1 or 2 other people that were like TV stars, I want to say, at the time, whose names and credits escape me. I think that was the first movie that Masumi Max, the late Masumi Max, actress and fetish model, appeared in as well.
Yes, yeah, her name's right here.
And she would go on to be in like Ginger Dead Man versus Evil Bong, and she her last movie for Full Moon was Giantess Battle Attack for Jim Wynorski. So that was her first Full Moon movie right there. Interesting movie. I like, Lucky Charms is a good example of one of the many movies that was kind of like the stab at a new franchise that didn't really take off. But that movie's marketing was cool because they released that in a cereal box.
Oh, that's funny. I've seen the cereal box for this in other movies.
Yeah, I had the cereal box in my movie room unopened with cereal in it. So.
Nice. Yeah, and this has some known people in it, like Richard Band does the music. Of course, Charles Band produced and directed it. August White, who I've seen now on a few of these movies.
Yeah, he's
Danny Draven edited it. Tom Devlin did the effects, so the 1313 effects. So it's I mean, it's got some people on it. So.
Yeah. Now, see, now that I'm thinking about it, you had worked on Evil Bong 777, but on that movie, I don't think it had. You didn't work with Don Peter Badalamenti on that movie, did you?
Name does not sound familiar.
He played. He was Beelzebub, basically the stone.
Oh yes, I did. I did work with him. Yeah, okay, yeah.
I think his name is Don Peter Badalamenti. He's sometimes billed as the Don.
That's how I know him.
He goes as far back as like Dr. Moreau's House of Pain. He's in Ginger Dead versus Evil Bong, and he's in that as the Cyclops.
Oh, okay. Oh, which is right there.
Yeah, he's the horny Cyclops. Fun actor. So he's been in a good number of Full Moon movies. The Don. I know that's what he's billed as in Ginger Dead Man versus.
That's how I know him as. So yeah, I think if you said, "Did you work with the Don?" I probably would have went, "Oh yeah, I know that."
Yeah, I think that's what he's usually billed as in Full Moon, is just the Don. So
yeah, he was fun to work with. So
he seems like a character.
I do believe I am now about to show a movie that you are playing on your TV.
Oh yeah,
and that would be 265, a Grindhouse Flicks original. Badass motherfuckers.
Yep, I was literally just watching this before you called. So, and notice how those titles too, they're in within close succession of each other. The documentary things, they were all produced within very close succession of each other. So, but this one they actually went with, no offense to the actress from Blood of a Thousand Virgins. This one they actually did get like a real celebrity as the host, because they had Fred the Hammer Williamson. So
Right there. Yep.
So
yeah, it says 90 minutes of butt stomping, jive talking, movie mayhem, hosted by the master of disaster, Fred the Hammer Williamson.
Yeah,
Look at that.
Yeah, there were probably 4 or 5 of those around that period, like that. They also had like Babes Behind Bars, which was like women in prison movies, hosted by Mindy Robinson. And they had one called Fists of Fury about, martial arts, that was hosted by Cynthia Rothrock. So
Mindy Robinson I worked with on Evil Bong 777, and I loved her in all the Evil Bong movies. I thought she was hilarious.
Yeah, she is a great comedic actress.
Okay, so she is a diehard Republican.
Yeah, I was gonna say she's a can of worms. Yeah, she's a can of worms to open.
So I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And I voted and said, I voted #blue wave. She harassed me for 3 days through Instant Messenger.
Yeah, I believe it.
And then I ended up seeing her when I was covering at one of the at the old company I worked for, the old storage company. I was working with one of the managers, and I guess she lived in that area, and we saw her with Randy Couture a couple times at this kind of like outside cafe when we would go get lunch. And I think that she looked at me kind of like, I think I know that guy, but I'm not really sure.
I think I harassed that guy online.
Yeah, I think I harassed him because it was so weird. Is we got along great on set. I took all these pictures with her. She used my axe from AXEMAS. So my axe and AXEMAS that she uses to try and kill them at the end of the movie makes a cameo. Yeah, which is cool.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And then all of a sudden she's sending me these messages going, "You're the problem with this country. You're the reason why we are." And just like, what the fuck? All I did was post. I voted, #blue wave.
There's been a couple people like that. There was a guy that was in Killjoy's Psycho Circus that was in 2 or 3 Full Moon movies named Rob Vardaro, who knew Mindy and I think was friends with her. And he was very, I'll say this, like, I won't talk politics personally, but like, it's America. You can think or vote however you want. That's your American right, so you can think and believe whatever you want, that doesn't affect me any. People might say it will, but you can do whatever you want. That's your right. I don't care what people do like that, but like some people just can't let shit slide. And I remember that Rob Vardaro guy going crazy on, I guess he was my version of Mindy, because he saw some random post and he just like went bonkers and just would not stop. And I don't block or defriend people like ever, like unless you literally have to be a problem for me to do that. And I literally had to block him because he was just like spamming like posts with bullshit and stuff, and just like a Jekyll and Hyde, kind of like how I've heard that stuff can be with her. Funny trivia with Mindy back in the day, there were 2 instances where I had loosely been approached or attached to work on Joe Hollow films. You know who Joe Hollow is?
No, I'm gonna say no.
He made a movie called The Family, which was shot as Cut, and he made
a movie called Cut.
I can't even remember like some of the he used to make like a lot of movies back in the day, and they had like huge B casts. And he had randomly approached me and was begging me to be in a movie of his that never got made. And then I remember him commenting on stuff saying, "Oh, did you read the script?" And an actor I had worked on in one of my earliest films had worked with him on The Family, and he was like, "How do you know Joe Hollow? Why is he talking to you? Why?" And I'm like, "What business is it of yours?" You know, it's weird that he's approaching me to try and get me to act in a lead role in one of his movies, but that movie never happened. And then he did another movie that shot in Florida, and it was called A Blood Story. And it was kind of, I want to say, a take on the Bathory thing, and it starred Mindy Robinson, and it had like Linnea Quigley, Camden Toy, Robert Zadar, Luc Bernier. It had a bunch of people in it, and there was an actor that dropped out, and I remember Luc Bernier emailed me and said, "Hey, Joe needs someone for a role. Could you do it?" And I'm like, "Maybe." And he sent me the role, and Joe started messaging me and was like begging me to come to set and work on it. And it was literally to play Mindy's husband. If you can imagine that. So considering that, like, you know who she's married to, so visually it doesn't really 2 + 2 does not equal 4 in that equation. But he was really gunning for it, and I'm like, I would totally do it. And in retrospect, I wish I had been in a movie where I played Mindy Robinson's husband, because that would have been the most hilarious thing to have on my acting resume. But they weren't willing to pay for gas money or anything. And he was like, "Oh, I come, and maybe when you're here, we can get you some money." And I mean, like, gas money as in, like, Florida's a long state, dude. Like, it was like a 6-hour drive north. Like, it was not, you know, a county or two over. It wasn't like driving to Tampa. It was like driving way up around the Panhandle. And I'm like, that is just not doable. And I don't drive because of my eyesight, so it was just far too complicated. But then, you know, they find someone else, and it's like a, you know, a big burly biker dude in a leather jacket that plays her husband. I'm like, that checks out. Like, this is not what Mindy Robinson marries right here. So, like, and yeah, I'm okay with that.
I just, you know, when this happened with her, you know, messaging me, I looked at her account. This, I think, was the 2016 election. Mm-hmm. And it like, I went like, oh, she's like a big, and of course this is at the time where, like, if you were a Trump supporter, I wanted nothing to do with you. And so I'm like, oh, she's like a big Trump supporter. And so yeah. And then I saw that, and then somebody goes, "No, you haven't seen her other page."
Yeah.
And that was the All-American guns, yeah. you know, and American Pie and American flag. And I'm like, oh shit. You know, of course I'm not gonna like it or whatever it is. I just left it alone. And I thought, okay, well, fine. But I got along with her on set. You know, we seemed to enjoy each other. And then when she started doing the messages to me, I unfriended her. And then I called her, I think I called her something like a blonde idiot. You know, yeah. I'm like, fuck you, you blonde idiot. And then she put that up on Facebook.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't private anymore. And then I'm like, oh, okay, if you want to play that, let me post the screenshots of you harassing me. And it was just like, I don't understand this. Like, maybe she didn't remember that, like, maybe she thought it was two different people.
Yeah.
But maybe. It's like, why go and harass somebody like that? And I have many Democrat friends. I have many Republican friends. I'm kind of in the middle right now. And it's like,
and we can all be friends. Like, we don't have, you know, we're all Americans. We don't need to be enemies. No, so I don't understand there being so much dissension in the ranks with political stuff, you know, like, but, you know, she's definitely someone who has very strong opinions and is not afraid to voice them and come at people, I guess. It's unfortunate because I feel like after a lot of that, I think she supported like the raid on the Capitol too.
Oh, I wouldn't do anything.
And after that, I feel like she didn't appear in any more full moon stuff. I feel like the last full moon movie she appeared in was maybe like a cameo in Ouija's as one of the party guests. But yeah, I was sad because I was, we got an Evil Bong 888, but they didn't resolve anything from 777, and it ended on a cliffhanger, and they just kind of squandered all that and just ignored it when they did part 8. So it's kind of irritating, because and my assumption was that they were just literally trying to dodge having to do anything with the Lucifer character. Was my main assumption, was they just wanted to avoid that character altogether, because they didn't. I'm speculating, this is not based on any knowledge. I'm presuming they just didn't want to have to deal with the repercussions of hiring her and working with her publicly, because she is very known to be very politically outspoken and difficult in some regards.
But it was funny, is on set, nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, on set, she was a delight. And it was like not one political thing was brought up at all.
Paid puppet, you're here to dance. It's like,
I guess so. So, yeah. Well, speaking of Evil Bong, that brings us to, and we're rounding the bend. We're rounding the bend. We got 266, and that would be Ginger Dead Man versus Evil Bong.
Nice, great movie. I love that movie.
So.
Love it.
Yeah, this is a fun film.
Yeah.
And it's Charles Band. Yeah,
even though there's no real fight, but that's okay.
Yeah. Well, in Sonny Carl Davis.
Yep.
Was great to work with. I got to take a picture with him.
Oh, no doubt.
And he was really good to work with. There's the Dawn. Got him right there.
The Dawn.
And so this has, Tom Devlin did the effects on it, Howard Wexler. So you
get that epic moment of Robin versus Robin when Luann meets Sarah Lee on camera.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Oh, there's Mindy, by the way.
Oh yeah, Mindy as the topless fantasy girl alongside Masumi Max.
Yeah, I'm just like,
her first
so happy to see her topless too.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God.
Her first of 3 Evil Bong universe characters. So.
And that brings us into then Evil Bong 420.
Which I'll admit, honestly, is one of my favorite sequels. I love it.
And that is a 269. So
I love that one. I was kind of shocked that it's so damn short when it came out, but I love 420. I think it's a really fun movie, and I won't lie, one thing that Versus did that I kind of was not a fan of was how they just wrote away all the other boys, all the other guys, and it was just Larnell at that point, Larnell and Rabbit. I kind of like the fact that 420 is just like a Rabbit movie.
Okay.
Like Sonny Carl was top build. Like it's so fun, but it's like oddly started a weird trend of like Evil Bong movies. I guess with part 3, they started the weird trend of those are almost like sitcoms where it's just like sort of a one location kind of thing where people just come and go within the same tight space. And that's just all in the same bowling alley. So fun movie though. I really enjoy 420 a lot.
Yeah, I remember liking most of them. And then after that, you had brought this one up too. That is Killjoy Psycho Circus. That's 270. And I know I got Miranda to sign it.
Mm-hmm.
And then who else did I have signed it? Why does that? Who else was here to sign it? I wonder if that's. I can't tell who that is. That's Miranda.
It's a mystery.
But I can't tell who that is right there.
It's a mystery.
But it must be somebody who I met. It's got to be. This is weird. It could be Robin Sidney because I worked with her on Evil Bong.
Yeah, could be.
So it might be her, but yeah. So we got Killjoy Psycho Circus, and then I've got a lot of the same type of movies here. Evil Bong High Five,
which is probably one of my least favorite Evil Bong movies. 4 and 5 though, or 420 and High Five are funny though because they have Mindy in them as Phoebe, the kind of a comic foil to Rabbit.
Did you collect Delirium magazine, or do you still collect Delirium magazine?
I have a lot of Delirium, yeah. A lot of Delirium.
So here, this is an interesting one. So obviously, I'm on Evil Bong 777, so I can't have them sign anything for Evil Bong 777. So I brought my copy of Evil Bong 666.
Oh yeah.
This thing is signed by the entire cast and crew.
Nice.
And it wraps all the way to the back.
I love 666. It's actually, I think, my favorite sequel.
I want to say, yeah. So it's all on the front and back, and then because there wasn't room,
they're on the back side too.
I had Charles Band sign inside.
Oh, nice.
So
hey, yeah, why not? Hell,
yeah. So this would be nice if this was worth something one day. So, and I don't know if I said this is 278. Mm-hmm. So
that's a fun one. I really enjoy 666 a lot.
Yeah, I think I like them all in various ways.
Yeah.
And then Evil Bong 777, even though I worked on the movie and got paid as a PA, or actually I was a camera assistant, I still gave crowdfunding.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I got the DVD and it's signed by Charles Band.
Yeah.
And that's 290 is this one.
Crazy to think that since then, and that was only like maybe about 6 years ago, give or take, and we're already at like 400 movies.
It was an interesting set to be on. It was figuring out how they, and I got to thank, Tom Devlin and Miranda Dudley for getting me on this.
Yeah.
So it was, I barely knew Tom at this point, but I knew Miranda from doing Clown Motel Massacre, which will hopefully be coming out shortly from Philip Tricky. And so it, I think I'm in. You could see me in a couple of the behind the scenes, like the camera kind of going by, and I'm holding because I did slate for the camera. Yeah. So that was pretty cool. But I should probably get other people to sign this now that get like Tom Devlin and stuff to sign it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then our last one. We're finally here at the last one. So
that's it.
Yeah. Phew. And now you have been on my One Filmmaker, One Film. Mm-hmm. Tom has been on there. Brooks has been on there. So when I interviewed Brooks, he sent me this in advance. And so this is the Ginger Weed Man, and he signed it for me. This is number 342.
Nice.
And it says, "To John, thanks for be weeding in me, like believing in me, weeding in me." And it's Brooks Davis right here.
Nice. That's a fun movie. It's not full moon art, but it's a super fun movie. I like the character. He's a silly character. And that movie has a nice sort of like tongue-in-cheek tone. It knows what it is. I think for modern Full Moon, I think that Brooks is, obviously I love Charles Band and what he does, but I think Brooks is actually one of the best directors that's been working with Full Moon in the last 10 or so years. I think he's a really cool guy. I love his voice work. I think the voice work of him as the Ginger Weed Man is actually really amazing. And he's a good director. He's a really good
done
director.
On set.
Yeah.
It's you will be, Charles Band would be, action, and it would have a scene with the Ginger, Weed Man in it, and all of a sudden Brooks does the voice.
Yeah.
So it isn't him just talking.
Yeah.
And then they dub it in later. He's doing the whole voice while he's on, because I think he was doing Slate for that.
Yeah.
No. What was he doing? He was like an assistant producer or director. I forget exactly his position, but he was doing something that was close to the camera.
For 777.
Yeah. And he
I feel like in a lot of stuff he's usually like a second unit director, usually sometimes.
Yeah, I think he does a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
And it was as funny as it would just be action, and then he would like duck down, and then all of a sudden there's the voice.
Yeah.
Would be right there. So it was a lot of fun. And
I don't doubt it.
And I didn't really, and I'm going to mispronounce her name, so maybe you could help me. Naiia Lojoie. She's one of the actresses in this.
Yeah, Naya something. I'm not gonna attempt it. I think I'll slaughter it.
Well,
great Alan, he's super fun.
Yeah, Alan Maxon is in this too. So when I did one film with him for Alien Planet, she joined us.
Oh,
and
nice.
I thought I was just interviewing an actress who was from Alien Planet. And I'm like, God, she looks really familiar.
Yeah.
And this was brought up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you were in Gingerweed Man. And she's like, yeah. And then I found my copy and showed it to her. And she's like, oh, that's really cool. But yeah, so I got to interview two people from this movie. So
I feel like I've been a producer on a handful of the Three Keys Media films that Matt Festel and Matt Leal have done, and their last movie, Isleen Pines, actually, she's the female lead in that one as well. It's like a Halloween movie where there's like an alien invasion kind of thing on Halloween night.
Yeah.
And she's the female lead in that. And I think they got her through Brooks. Actually, Brooks makes a random cameo in the movie as well. So
yeah, they asked me to review it. Matt, the two Matts did.
Yeah.
And I said, do you want me to be honest? Or do you want me to just do like a fluff piece? And they're like, no, be honest. So I wrote down 2 columns, what I liked, what I didn't like. And they messaged me going, the stuff that you didn't like, we didn't even think about that. It was just like, thank you for letting us know. So it was kind of like, for future films, we could look, for these things, because even though I really enjoyed the movie, there were story inconsistencies that I pointed out, and they appreciated that. And I did enjoy the movie. People should see it. They make good films. So
I think I'm, as a producer, I don't really put stock in reviews usually, and I definitely don't really care if a movie gets a bad review. Reviews are press in general. Sometimes a bad review will get your movie seen more than a good review, honestly. So, I know different actors and filmmakers that'll see a bad review and it just like, it ruins their day. And they're just like, oh, I can't believe this. They said this about my movie and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, who cares? Someone will hear that and they'll be fascinated at it. And they'll be like, I need to watch this and find out for myself. More people will go and watch a movie based on a not necessarily like 100% positive review than they will a good review. So I'm totally pro always, like non-fluff piece, like be bluntly honest, give me your most savage. I don't care. At the end of the day, I won't lose any sleep over it. So, and plus sometimes the creative criticism can be something that you can, pick from and learn from. So I really don't care either way. So that's why I'm like, even with something I love, like Full Moon, and, again, I'll say it, like, there are the dick riders who I will not name by name, but like there are Full Moon fans out there that are like, everything's amazing. I love everything. Like it's
shills, total shills, Full Moon
high class art. And you probably know some of them. I am not that person because I'm not fake. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I think Killjoy 2 or The Horrible Dr. Bones or something like that are these like masterpieces of like B cinema you need to rush out and watch yesterday, because they're not. Like,
but to me, that's a true fan. If a true fan, like my favorite band is the Monkees. I've liked them since I was 10 years old. They've had their ups and downs. They've had good albums. They've had bad albums. They've made poor choices for concerts. They've done that. To me, as a true fan, is when you can sit there and say that album was a 2, but this one was a 9, and still be an absolute fan. To me, a shill who just thinks every single thing is perfect is not a fan.
Yeah, total bullshit artist. The weird comparison I can make is like I'm not a fan of remakes. So, but with remakes, one thing I always say is I can be way more forgiving of a bad sequel than a bad remake. Because a bad sequel is in a franchise, a bad sequel is basically like the redheaded stepchild. It's like, nobody really likes it that much or whatever, but it's still part of the family, you know? So you got to accept it because it's part of the group, you know, like, yeah, sometimes there's a bad Full Moon movie, but you know what? Maybe it's the redheaded stepchild. But it's still Full Moon. So you can't turn your back on it. You have to accept it and respect it, but I don't have to like it all the time. And that's okay. I would rather not like everything, because if I loved everything, it'd all be bullshit. So,
well, yeah, because if you like everything, then nothing is special.
Exactly. So that's why I'm happy that I can say I think that, you know, like something like Arcade has as much weight to me as a movie and as, you know, something that, you know, emotionally can move me and inspire me. And then, you know, I can sit here and tell you, I think, you know, Horrible Dr. Bones is a piece of dog shit. You know? But, you know, do I own like 3 copies of it on DVD and a VHS? Of course I do.
Of course you do.
So, because I'm that guy. So,
yeah, I mean, yeah, I thought of doing a video of like 5 films in your collection that you hate, but you won't get rid of.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why are they in your collection if you hate them so much and you're not going to get rid of them?
That would be an interesting thing to do.
Yeah. So that may be down the road. So
I'd have to spend like 5 or 6 months going through my movie room looking at everything just to find them.
Oh God, I could pull 5 out right now and you know, and just.
But to me, part of the beauty of my movie room is like I own all kinds of stuff. You know what I mean? I don't just, I love B horror and stuff, but it's not all that. You'll find everything. I have every genre. There's a mix of just everything. I love the variety that has went into what has become my collection. So I think that's what gives it its unique character, in my opinion. I could be full of shit because it's mine and I'm biased, but I think that's what makes it uniquely special for me. So.
Yeah, and I've been collecting recently directors. So, and then some of them would fit into that maybe 5 to 10 movies that I shouldn't own, but it's all like Guy Ritchie with Swept Away. If I didn't collect all of his movies, I would never own Swept Away. I wanted all the Zack Snyder verse, like comic book movies. Got to own Wonder Woman 1984.
Yeah.
So I got it in my collection. So those are 2 films that would go onto that list.
Yeah.
So it's stuff like that I would never own unless I was doing a particular collection.
Yeah.
So
it makes sense. Nobody in their right mind is like, man, I got to go get Madonna's Swept Away. That was such an emotionally charged romance. Like, nobody gave a shit.
Nobody cared, and probably nobody owns it but me and Madonna.
Probably,
I don't even think Guy Ritchie owns it.
I was gonna say, if him or her even own it. So,
yeah, they might have just thrown it off like into the ocean or something. Maybe it was swept away.
Yeah, you never know. And I'm that guy that, like, if my name's on something, I make it an absolute point to own a copy of every single thing my name is on. Period. Because, like, I'm sure you're a big collector. You know, things can come in and out of distribution and circulation in a moment's notice, and things just become not available and they cease to exist. So the moment anything that my name's on, even if it's a special thanks, I snap that shit out
yeah,
immediately,
I want it. Yeah,
because once it's gone, it's gone. So
yeah, normally that and a poster is nice. You know, I like to
yeah,
get both of those, and even if I just store the poster, that's fine.
yep,
But yeah,
yep,
I like to get both of those. So
yeah.
but
I
man,
feel that.
we have been on here for a long time, so I'm going to let you go. Is there anything that you would like to promote? Anything that you would like for people to know? What you know?
Whew. You know, I'm trying to think. It's been a long day. You know, I always have stuff, you know, that's kind of cooking. I'm hoping that we can have Jekyll versus Hyde hopefully done later this year after a long hiatus there. I haven't really been on too many sets in the last 2 or 3 years since COVID, because I am my mother's full-time caregiver, and I work 40 hours a week on top of that. So it's 40 plus. So it's sometimes difficult to get away and do things, but we're in a good spot right now to the point where I can actually get away and take off and go out and play. So I'm hoping to be out on some sets here soon. I've actually got like 7 completed scripts that I've written in the last 2 or 3 years. So I have content. I've been casting for 2 of them that I hope to shoot later this year. I guess the main thing to promote for me really is that after a long time of planning and prep, I'm launching my distribution label finally. Long muted attempt at doing distribution, with releasing Evil Curiosity, which you and I had discussed on your show.
Yes.
That I produced with Brink Stevens. I'll be distributing a DVD version of that with special features, and I will be distributing the American DVD release of Corona Clown from filmmaker Clement Chevalier, from a French language slasher film shot in France. So those will be my first. Yeah, great movie. So those will be my first 2 official DVD releases that actually come out in less than a week. They drop next Tuesday. They'll be available online through Seaward DVD. So once those hit, I'll start promoting the link, and they'll be available through Kunaki. So very excited for those and some more. I have the rights to a lot of stuff, and I've been given permission to release a lot of stuff. It's just been, with life being so crazy the last few years, it's been hard to focus and, you know, get some stuff where it needed to be. But I think we're actually there now. So
okay, good.
I'm hoping to maybe have, you know, 2-ish releases every 2 to 3 months is the plan. So we'll see. But that's the best thing I can say. Yeah, watch for Seaward DVD, and definitely, you know, if you're a fan of Brink Stevens, grab a copy of Evil Curiosity. If you love weird foreign horror, grab Corona Clown.
I own a copy of it, so yeah, it's a good film.
There you go. So and eventually I'll release Corona Clown 2 and Clement's other movie, Screambirds.
That's a good one. I got that on Blu-ray.
Attack of the Nuclear Pigeons. So. So those, I know he's going to do part 3 at some point, maybe next year, and I'll have distribution in America for most of those as the current plan. So, along with a lot of the stuff that I own that I've made, that some of the stuff that has never even come out that I've made, that I'll start just distributing myself. So yeah.
Oh, okay, great. Well, it sounds like a lot's happening. So
yeah.
A lot to look forward to.
Feels productive finally. So, and it's good. It's good that I feel like I have enough written material now too, that I can actually start getting some more like genuine projects, because I help people produce a lot of stuff, but I'm ready to start having more of my own films be made again, like an Evil Curiosity or like Animate or Ouija Mummy, things that are genuinely mine, that are, you know, from this, you know, fucked up thing here, and getting them out in the world. So that'll feel gratifying. So
Okay, good. All right.
so,
Awesome.
yeah.
Okay. And then, you know, whatever links you want me to put down there, I'll put down there for people to click on.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
so anybody watching this, just, you know, look down there where, you know, they can see your films or buy your films or check you on IMDb or whatever it might be. So we'll put those down there.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. So, okay, everybody. Well, thank you very much. Thanks for watching. This is a long one, but a good one, I think. And we'll see you on the next video, because that will be Jonathan Moody will be on the next one, where we discuss movies that don't have a number on the spine.
Oh, there you go.
So, you know, yeah, I'm trying really kind of pushing this, you know, it's like,
oh yeah.
Yeah. You know, whatever little videos I can get at. Well, this is a long one, but you know, whatever videos I could get. So there's a lot of stuff to cover with Full Moon.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there is. It's a deep depth of stuff. So
yeah. So, all right, everybody. Thank you. And I'll see you on the next video.
All right. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Bye.
Later.
Yay. Thanks, Dustin. Bye.